This is Brightside Home Theater.
And we're back.
There we go.
Dance, monkey, dance. I forgot.
I know. I'm like sitting there listening. I'm like, hello. I'm like, oh, all right. What are we up to next? We got coming soon, coming up on Tuesday, October 4th. I think it is.
Yeah, should be the 4th.
October 4th. We have coming soon. Ready for that?
I am ready.
All right. I didn't have the curtain ready. Screwed the whole thing up. Oh, hang on. Backing it up. We're backing this whole thing up. We're going back in the green room here.
Uh-oh.
We're going to back it all up. All right, back into the green room here. I got to edit this because I forgot to load the images. Oh, there they are. Why did I block them out? All right, let's come back from this again one more time. Get to the green room. Up. Releases. Coming soon. There we go. See, that's what's nice. Now I can just, and you can say, and we're back again. We'll do that. We'll get a take 2 on this. Green. No, I did. Let me just make sure I know I loaded the image. Boom, 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 boom. All right. Yeah, everything's there. Yep, everything's there. All right. Told you, it's been a bad day. All right. We're back in the green room. And, all right. You ready to bring us back in?
And we're back.
Yes, we are. That's take 2. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Again.
All righty, John, you ready to get to upcoming releases for Tuesday, October 4th, correct?
I am ready.
Correct.
Yes.
You're ready. All right, here we go. Nice. All right. We're going to try to cook through this. We have coming to 4K this week. We have Night of the Living Dead. Scream 2, also getting a steelbook. What else we have? Oh, DC League of Super Pets.
Uh-huh.
It's also available right now. It's also available on HBO Max.
Is it?
Yeah, in 4K with Atmos.
Nice.
So I think I'm going to take that one in there.
Yeah.
And if I really like it, I'll grab the 4K. Let's see what else.
You'll just be taking it in on HBO Max.
Probably, yeah. Collector's edition of Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers, as well in 4K, as well as the Halloween 4K collection, 1995 to 2002.
Did you see the Walmart? The Walmart had that up for pre-order.
Yeah.
For like $19.
Yeah.
And
whoops.
all these people were placing orders for it, and then they're all posting today their cancellation notices from Walmart.
Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I don't even want it, and I almost went and pre-ordered it just on the
For
off
$20
chance that I got it for $20.
Yeah. Yeah. Like what happened?
I'm not really the biggest fan of all those movies. So.
Not all of them. I like the original.
Yeah. I mean, the first one, the original's good, and actually the
newer ones are pretty good too.
The newer one wasn't like the first newer one.
Yeah,
I think they're on the third one already.
Yeah, well, the third one's this year, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, we have collector's edition Army of Darkness, also in 4K, and we're back to the Night of the Living Dead. So that is.
You'd almost think it was October with all these horror movies coming out.
I know, October 4th. Who knew? Who knew? All right. That was quick and painless and easy. Mostly just a lot of steel books, and but that was pretty much it for. I think those are all the new ones that are coming from what I could find. So
cool.
All right. You ready to get to real home theater experiences, John?
I am.
All right, let's get to that. Let's get this projector powered up here. Boop, boop, boop. There it goes. All right, we'll save Andor for last.
Oh, okay.
So you can go first since I only have the one. Other than that,
Okay.
because I did most. But go ahead. What are we
Okay,
going
so
with?
I stumbled upon this show on Netflix the other day, and it looked interesting. So we started watching it. It's called Fate: The Winx Saga. It's got 2 seasons. Actually, I guess season 2 just dropped, and that's why it was kind of there front and center. Dolby Vision, Dolby Atmos. 2 seasons, but not very, like, it's 13 episodes total. So I think it's like 6 and 7. So it's not a huge commitment. I didn't realize till after the fact that this is based actually on a Nickelodeon show.
Oh, really?
So I guess it's based on a cartoon. Yeah,
Huh.
but this is adultified because it's definitely not for kids. But this is it's kind of basically it's a school for witches, and like fairies and it's one of those shows. There's magic and otherworldly creatures.
Oh my!
But it's kind of like it's a bit too much teen drama in places. Like there's a couple of times where I'm almost like, this is a little too much, and maybe I'm not going to keep going with this. But then something really cool happens, and it kind of drags you back into it. But yeah, it's a little CW, when it comes to that. So I'm not going to say like everybody needs to go out and watch this, but it's actually, the more we get into it, we've actually been kind of enjoying it. But it's really, really good for the home theater aspect of it.
Really?
Really
Cool.
good Atmos, yeah. I made one note, and then I kind of stopped taking notes. But at about the halfway point of episode 2, 34 minutes in, there's some really, really great bass, booming bass.
Yeah.
And I didn't go back and write this because I knew I would remember it, but it really kind of went on throughout the rest, like the last half of that episode. It was just really, really thundering and good bass. And I've noticed it at a couple of other points throughout the other episodes. We've only got one left. We're almost done with it. We'll finish it today. But throughout the whole 2 seasons, there's been some pretty good Atmos effects and good bass. So, and like I said, I don't have Dolby Vision capability, but it still looks awesome on the projector. So
Nice.
overall, we've enjoyed it. But like I said, know what you're getting into if you're going to watch it, because it is a little bit,
Childish?
Vampire Diaries,
Oh,
kind of
okay, yeah.
CW-ish, thing. They're all teenage girls and guys.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, got some of that. And at times a little bit much where, like I said, I've kind of like, maybe this isn't for me. But like I said, then something cool happens and it pulls you back in. But anyways, pretty good HD experience. So
Cool.
yeah.
All right. Let's see. Because of Andor, I can't wait to get into that discussion with you. But because of Andor, I went back and watched Rogue One, a Star Wars story. I have it on the Kaleidescape, 4K, Atmos, of course. And it is. I did watch this briefly because when I first bought it on the Kaleidescape, because I wanted to see what it looked like. This one and Solo, I always thought the HDR was kind of rough. Like I always thought it was a little bit grayed out. But since getting the Lumigen, that is kind of taken care of all that.
It's not a thing anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, because what happens is like the way my projector was doing it before is it wasn't tone mapping, it wasn't doing all that, and now what the Lumigen can do is it can really give you exactly what you're supposed to be seeing, and it's not grayed out. These images are gorgeous, and Rogue One, it's like it's so nice, very, very dynamic. There are some scenes that are a little grayed, but it's atmospheric, and it's supposed to be.
Right.
But the colors are just so vibrant. And like I said, there's atmospheric haze and stuff. But it's just an awesome looking movie. And I don't know. I was watching Andor, and I just really wanted to get back into it. So I threw on Rogue One, and of course, I don't want to say I got Shawshank because I wanted to, but then I was just really drawn into it. And after seeing the 3 episodes of Andor and having those fresh in my head, he's a much bigger character than I ever viewed him in Rogue One.
Right.
He's really like the other star of the movie. And I always thought of him as just one of those other people along on her trip. Right?
Right. Jin Erso was the star, and
right.
And a supporting character.
And he was just a supporting, and now I'm like, he's actually at one point in the movie, he's actually bigger than her. Like, he's the one doing all of this. But she just has the information, right?
Right. Well, and I think as we're going to see through Andor, through the rest of the series, like, he's an integral part of the forming of the rebellion, right? And,
yes,
that plays a big part in everything that we see later. Because, I saw a comment on Facebook today, somebody was talking, well, the headline was, something about Andor comes, and why are Star Wars fans still not happy about anything or whatever? I didn't really read the article or the headlines, but I got
to those expectations that we were talking about earlier.
Well, I got sucked into the comments a little bit, and somebody's comment was, well, it's because why should we care about Cassian Andor? He's a side character, and we already know what happens to him. Well, that's not true, right? Like, he's very integral to the rebellion forming, and without the rebellion forming, like, what does Luke Skywalker do? What does Leia? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna say he's solely responsible for it, but he's there at the beginning of it, and he's an important piece of that puzzle. And maybe if all you've ever seen is Rogue One, you don't think he's that important of a character, but we're gonna find out that he is.
Right.
He is an important character. So. I don't know. Again, just one of those things that rubbed me the wrong way when I saw that. Because you could say that about any show that we're watching. Why are we watching The Bad Batch? They're all a bunch of side characters. Honestly, why did we watch Obi-Wan? We already knew what was going to happen to him. It's like, you could say that about anything.
Look at you, John. You're just bringing the points today.
Yeah.
Great.
So, anyway.
No, you're right.
Yeah, I watched Rogue One about 3 months ago. I sat down and rewatched it too. With the projector and all that stuff. And I thought it was great. I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. There's at 47 minutes and 30 seconds, there's an escape. And at the first shot from the Death Star, everything, the buildings are crumbling all around you. So they're in, I believe this is in, what's his name's, remember his, not
Saw?
the build. Saw Gerrera.
Yeah.
And you're in it's like a cave. It's not even a building, really. You're in his cave, but they shoot the planet, and everything's shaking, and they all have to get out of there, but your whole room is engaged with everything crumbling around you. Really, really great base. Just really, really good scene. That 1 hour and 5 minutes, you get X-Wings in the rain. And if you remember this scene, this is where, like, Jin is on the platform with her father. It's pouring rain, and the X-Wings come in, and it's just the depth of field you get out of that. It was dark, but then it was so vibrant when they shot the blasters and everything.
Right.
It's so bright. It's like, and that's where that HDR comes in. We can have this really dark scene, but then the colors are still vibrant, and those bright scenes are just really bright against that black background. Whereas before, with my projector, it was taking that scene, it was basing it off of it's a dark scene, so it tried to darken everything in the scene, right? And it's like, so now even my brights were darkened a little bit because it's trying to show you that overall dark scene. And that's where this thing is just, it looked so good, so good. But then I used a picture for you could see it on the thing, but it's a scene.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at it. Yeah, I'm looking at it.
HDR at 1 hour, 13 minutes, and 11 seconds, and the lava coming in and underneath, and the ship that's coming in. It's an Imperial ship that's coming in, and you have those white, blue, like the royal blue look of the engines at the back of the ship, and the way they just come off the page, it looked awesome. But also, if you look to the right side of the screen, you can see the lava flowing towards the building off in the distance, but it was still like this picture doesn't do it justice, John, but it's like, you can still see all, like, it's so vibrant, but it's supposed to be off in the distance. So it is, right? But check out that bright lava on the left side of the screen.
Even on the picture, you can see it.
It's awesome. And the glow off of it, but then the detail in it, it's awesome. Awesome. And that would do it for that. That's what I have for scenes for that. But yeah, Rogue One, especially if you're watching Andor, trust me, go back and just start it up, and you will get Shawshanked. It's like so good. It's so good. And I love that when, for me anyways, that Star Wars does stuff like this, and same with the Lord of the Rings. All of these new shows, they make you want to go back and watch the old stuff. And you even see it on Twitter too. I haven't seen anything about Rogue One, but with Lord of the Rings, everybody's talking about, because of Rings of Power, you see all these conversations about reviews on Lord of the Rings again. And of course we're doing it too, but that's what we do. But yeah, so pretty cool. Pretty cool. Oh, I see. I have another one here. I forgot to even mention, but why don't we get to your next one?
Okay. So I watched the Wembley Stadium scene of Bohemian Rhapsody. It's chapters 21 and 22 on the 4K disc. It's like the second half of chapter 21 and then chapter 22. Yeah. But I wanted to watch this scene. You know, I kind of I was at a birthday party Saturday evening, and they were watching YouTube, and somebody pulled up a video of like the comparison of like the, Freddie Mercury and the live shots versus the movie. And, they were playing split screen side by side. And anyways, I just put a bug in my ear to watch that scene. I hadn't watched it with the projector or, the amp or anything like that. So I cranked that up, watched that scene. It's again, like we were talking about with Live from Prague, when you have the music going, it is so immersive. Like it's an incredible scene. The bass throughout all of the songs is booming. And it rattles the room. Bohemian Rhapsody, they start with, and the bass there is just, like I said, it just rattles the room. And it's super awesome. I don't have timestamps here. I just kind of based it on, I did it as the songs instead of the timestamps. But they move on to Radio Gaga, which is the next song. And it's like the whole stadium is clapping, and it's like your whole room. It's like you're in the middle of the crowd. Yeah. And everything's clapping around you. Hammer to Fall, again, the bass there. You could just keep saying, We Are the Champions, I wrote bass like again, duh. Because it's just through the whole thing. It's just really, really incredible. And again, in that song, everybody's singing along, and the immersion of being like the voices are coming from your entire room, the entire stage, and you're just immersed in the clapping and the sounds of the singing and the band. And like I said, it's an incredible scene. Again, most people have probably seen it and experienced it. I'm not telling anybody anything new, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was awesome. So
cool. Yeah, I didn't have an image for that because I don't have it. So, but
you don't have the movie?
I do. I have it on Kaleidescape.
Oh, okay. I didn't have
the
image for it.
I didn't have the 4K Blu-ray, so I didn't have the image for it. So, I could have put up the Kaleidescape one. Jen and I haven't even seen it yet. I haven't.
You have never seen it?
Nope.
Oh my god!
And we keep
DJ.
talking about it. Like, you want to go watch it? Every now and then it will be like, oh, I'm too tired. Like because it's horror. So
Yeah.
like, oh, okay. But yeah, I'm waiting to see it with her.
Oh, okay. So I'm assuming you've watched this already.
Oh, no.
Kind of know what I'm talking about.
Oh no.
Yeah. It's phenomenal. Like,
Oh,
it's
I know.
really, really
I've heard
great.
that. Yeah, but yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, I want to see it. But,
Yeah. No, I hear
yeah,
you.
we'll get to it.
Yeah.
Get to it. It's not like I haven't seen other things.
Oh, I know.
I saw Star Wars.
I know.
A million times.
Yeah. I don't know. In my mind, I assume this is one you'd already seen.
You'd think I would have. You're right. Let's see. Oh yeah. Let's skip back to HD experiences here. Yeah, Cyberpunk. Episode 4. The opening scene on that it's like the overhead. And now this movie isn't, or show, I should say, it's not in Atmos. It's just in the PCM audio, right?
Right.
5.1, and it sounds incredible. And the opening scene of episode 4, the rain and the water hitting everywhere around your room, the upmixing, I use Neural X. It just sounds incredible. So I know I said last week that I was watching it, but that one there, even if you're not watching it on Netflix, go to Cyberpunk, go to episode 4, just hit play and just enjoy, because
and I still haven't gotten
really
to this
cool experience.
Yeah, it's on my I've saved it in my Just Watch app so I can get to it, but I haven't started it yet.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Believe that's the last one. So let's get to Andor.
All right.
So you said in your notes, I'm with Steve on this.
Yeah. So,
Please elaborate.
Well, you and Steve were talking about it last week on the show.
Yeah.
Because he had actually already watched it. You had only watched one episode, I think, at the time.
Right.
He had watched all 3. And you guys were talking about it briefly last week.
Mm-hmm.
And don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not disappointed in this show in any way.
No.
But I agree with Steve in that, it is a very slow burn through the first 3 episodes.
Yes.
If they had only dropped one, now, again, I'll preface this by saying it's Star Wars, so I'm going to watch it no matter what.
Right.
But, I wasn't hooked after one episode. Like, they dropped 3 for a reason. Because, I feel like a lot of people with one episode might not have bought in to what Andor is doing. By the end of episode 3, and, again, Steve said this as well, episode 3 is an action episode, and a lot of things start happening, and it gets a lot more engaging. And I feel like from episode 4, mild spoilers, but he's leaving now, and he's off to his adventure.
Right.
And I feel like the first 3 episodes were just the build up to his adventure.
Yep.
And now he's going off. He's going to go, join the rebellion, and they're going to start doing
the story.
things. Right.
Yeah.
And we're going to get the story. And we have, I think, 9 more episodes to follow through with that.
Yeah.
So this was kind of like the prologue.
Yeah.
I think. But it was a little slow build. And I also didn't find it super engaging as far as the home theater aspect of it goes. I know what, again, I agree with Steve in that scene in the warehouse on episode
I agree too.
3.
Yeah.
Should have been a lot more dynamic.
Oh my God.
Than it was.
Yes.
And again, we know this is streaming, but we also talk about.
It was just missing. It was literally missing.
Right. We also talk about how, okay, it's streaming, but streaming can still be good because we're talking about Rings of Power. We talk about Stranger Things. I'm talking about Fate. Fate had better base than
Andor
did. And so I just felt like it was a little lacking as far as the. And I didn't turn it up past reference or anything, so I didn't do
it's
plus
not
7
there.
or plus
There's
10.
That one there was base, right? It's but again, it's a slow burn. It's not a base heavy. It's not a home theater environment, which we speculated before the show dropped that this would be the case, right? And so what I found interesting is I enjoyed the movie. I agree with everything you're saying, and I agree with everything Steve said last week now that I'm caught up to what he saw. But that's not the kind of show that it is. I find the picture quality to be really good.
It is. I agree. It's I think Steve said the same. Like, it looks great.
Yeah.
It's the sound.
Yeah.
You know.
It's the sound, and it's like, but I don't mind. I didn't mind the sound until I got to that scene, and it doesn't take me out of it. It doesn't make me wish it was something else but so spoiler, small spoiler, objects are falling from a ceiling that
Which,
are
again,
chained.
was in the trailer. I mean, it was in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler,
but
really.
they're chained. So
right.
My bright side mind was trying to rationalize why there was zero impact sound to the point that these things are chained. So I was like, oh, that's why they're not making sound. Maybe they're not hitting the ground, right? Because that could, if you look at it closely, they come down and then maybe those chains keep them off of the floor. So there would be no impact. Wrong. They are hitting the ground, because if you keep watching the scene, you see them.
Yeah.
They are. But I was trying to rationalize, because there is literally there's no possibility of turning this up. It's just literally missing.
Right.
It's like a special effect they did, but they literally forgot to add the boom when these
they left
objects,
it in the closet.
Right. Like, there's no boom when these things hit the ground.
Right.
Now, you wouldn't even have to. So, going back to Jurassic World Dominion, there is a case where that happens with the T-Rex scene, or the new T-Rex scene. And I mentioned it, right? Because you hear the footsteps, but then you see one come down and there's nothing, and you're like, oh, but they just missed that one. But there's a bunch of other ones. So you're fine, unless you're doing what we do and analyze this scene, and you'd never really even notice that.
Frame by frame,
frame by frame, step by step, literally.
Right.
Well, this scene in Andor is like, I mean, it's just like, uh-oh.
Yeah, it's not like they missed just one.
No. And now it's a loud scene too. There's a lot going on. But what you do notice as a home theater fan is there is nothing, no impact noise whatsoever of what should be there. It's actually kind of comical. Right. Yeah. And it's like, and it doesn't take you out of it. If Steve hadn't mentioned it,
I was going to say, did you go to it? Yeah. Would you have noticed it if you weren't already pre-warned about it?
Well, all he said there was a scene with no bass. And so I was kind of like thinking about it. But then when I got there and I'm like, oh my God, this has to be it. So I'm pretty sure I would have noticed it anyways, because eventually you'd get, because it is a long scene too. And there's a lot of opportunities for some nice booms. And there are booms in the scene, but not the kind that should be from these objects. It's like, and not the ones that go with these objects. There are booms to other things. There's an explosion, or there's a bunch of explosions. There's blast of fire. There's all of this other stuff going on. But these things dropping, there's nothing, and it's pretty funny.
Right.
So, but overall, I mean, I'm looking forward to episode 4.
I definitely am. Yeah, me too.
And I am engaged in the story, and I am engaged in the home theater experience enough for this story. It's not like, I mean, I remember Mandalorian talking with people about that when it was coming out, and there was some nice booms when he came into, like, he'd take off in his ship, and you get that sonic booms. You got some, he did some of those seismic charges, I think, in that series as well, that were really nice. So maybe we'll get something, in future episodes, but in these first 3, I agree. It's not a home theater experience type series, but 12 episodes is plenty of time to turn that around, and it's not taking me out of it either.
By the end of episode 3, I was fully engaged in the story. But Lydia and I both looked at each other after the second episode, and we're like, boy, this is kind of a slow build.
I was still, I loved it. I loved
Yeah.
it. I mean, I had a good time with it. So
again, I was never not going to, it's not like when I was watching Fate and I was thinking, well, maybe I'm going to stop watching this.
Right.
I was going to watch no matter what, but
right.
I did, like I said, I did find it a little slow to start.
Yeah.
But like I said, most of these shows we only get 6 to 8 episodes total. This one we're getting 12. So if I have to have 3 slow ones at the beginning or 2.5 slow ones to get to 8.5 good ones, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Well, you're getting more story. That's why. And that's what happens.
That's what I'm saying. We're getting so much story here that, and
but it's in a universe you like.
That they're right. And I understand that they're building his backstory. Like, I understand how to tell a story, like storytelling. I know what they're doing, but it like I said, it was definitely a slow burn.
Yeah.
But like I said, but I also think it won't be going forward. I think, it'll be ramped up. It'll be ramped up from here on out. So,
yep. Yeah. So looking forward to it. It actually drops tomorrow as we're talking here. And,
I was going to say,
as the podcast
when this goes up, most people have already seen episode
4, right?
Yeah.
So, all right. And now we've come to the part of the show where we're going to talk Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, with Jeff from HD Report.
Hey, home theater nerds. Welcome to the Bright Side Home Theater Podcast, where it's all about the experiences, the sights,
the sounds,
and the scenes.
Fantastic. Jeff, you nailed it.
I wasn't sure if you knew your cue or not.
Oh, yeah. Well, I didn't know if you were going to go all the way through, but as soon as you pointed, I was like, all right, yeah. So you've been listening with John and everything. Like, you're making me dance. I'm the monkey.
John's got it nailed.
Yep. Oh, I know.
He's like still deadpan. He's like, the sounds.
Yeah.
like he's not even, he's doing something else.
I know. It's so funny. It's like, and I think a couple weeks he actually tried to jazz it up a little bit. The sounds. Okay. But watching you get ready to do it, I was trying not to laugh too much because I didn't know when you were going to come in with it, but it reminded me of me when I was starting out, and it's like, it takes a little bit, like I didn't have that right away. And now it's just like, I'm like, it's just automatic. Right. But I totally remember being just like that and be like, okay, all right. How is it? Hey, home theater. And I'd have to redo it. I'd be like, nope. I forgot experiences. But now it's just automatic. And I'll be like, hey, home theater nerds, welcome to Brightside Home Theater Podcast. And I just do it. And my wife told me she ended up doing it at work once because somebody said, oh, your husband has a podcast? And they're like, yeah, it's home theater. It's like, oh, yeah. She's like, yeah. They're like, what's it about? And she goes, the experiences, the sights, the sounds, the scenes. And she went, oh, my God.
That's really funny.
But that's really awesome. Funny. That's awesome. Thanks. You're listening. Look at you go. Thank you very much. I know, seriously, I really appreciate that.
No problem.
That's awesome.
It's funny. It's in my head.
Good. Kinda.
So what's up with you?
No, not much. Just, I think I've been nailed to this desk for oh, God. Oh, man. So, Lord of the Rings, this entire thing, and Rings of Power. John and I talk about it briefly about the negativity, right? I don't see it. Honestly, I don't want to really get into it because this has kind of consumed me. And just the, Rings of Power has made me go back through, and I think you're seeing it too. It's like, there's a lot of chatter about Fellowship, Two Towers, and Return of the King, because I think Rings of Power has engaged people to go back and watch all these shows. You're seeing it all over social media, people doing reviews on it again and reliving it and everything like that. And it's, I think Amazon's done an amazing job here with this.
Oh yeah, I think it's fantastic. Are you talking about sort of the negativity? I mean, the cave trolls coming out and the politics. Yeah, I mean, look, we're talking about dragons, as if there weren't boats back then. You couldn't travel across the seas, to different lands where people are different races. Oh, okay.
Yeah. See, I don't like getting into all stuff like. It's just
Hey,
why it's like
the Hobbit is going to be public domain pretty soon.
Really.
So that's what I heard. So what's to stop someone from in Japan to do a completely Japanese version of the Hobbit, or
Right.
someone from someone in India or somewhere else? I mean, it's just all good, man.
It's art.
Just have fun. It's all interpretations,
Right.
You go make your own and interpret your own, then do what you want. But I mean, I don't know.
That's exactly what John said. Because
I just ignore it all. So
yeah, so I had a listener, and we talked about it earlier. I had a listener write in, and he had some, negativity about it, but it was in a good way. He's not a troll. He's not coming at it. But what he was doing, and John had a great response to it, is much like you just said, it's the interpretation, right?
Mhm.
And these are just what I think where the anger comes from. In the case of like my listener, it comes from the passion for the source, right? It's not a troll looking to just get angry about anything, whatever, but it's more of like they were hoping that it would be more true to a source when that's not always the case, and you can get angry, but like John said, he chooses not to anymore. Like, what's the point? Because like you said, it's somebody's interpretation of a piece of art.
Well, I mean, Peter Jackson, I guess in terms of race was more accurate, but the Rings of Power is not even taken directly from any book. It's
Right.
it's taken from parts of it from the Similarian, and just different all the notes basically on the film. So if let somebody else make one that's true to another book, but this is their translation, so I don't see.
Right.
I think it's great. I love it. I love seeing all different kinds of characters. Great.
Yeah. I see. I just look at the characters in a story, and I'm loving the story. I'm loving
fantastic.
I'm loving the story and getting the backstory to what we're about to talk about. Like I feel like the one we're talking about is like the end of it.
Well, I'm also, I'm actually liking it more than House of the Dragon. I don't know if you've been watching that, but
Yes.
I was really disappointed the other night.
I didn't see the latest one, but I know they did the time jump, and I know there is some disappointment out there in that.
It's horrible.
Is it?
It's horrible. I mean, I love these two characters, and they took them out, but yet they left other characters in that didn't age at all. Like this guy, Sir Kristen, who kills this guy at a wedding, and he's still in the picture, and it's just like he hasn't aged a day after 10 years. Just I don't know. I kind of lost interest. I mean, I'll still watch it, but it's just not as. I don't get it. I mean,
it was
I
a
would
leap
have
too far for you.
It was. Well, some of the actors leaped, and some didn't. It's like.
Yeah,
So why?
Well, I think John. I haven't seen this one yet, so I don't even know who the replacement characters are. But from what I was talking about with John, I think even last week, it was more to the point that those two women, those female characters, were much younger, and the idea is that, like Sir Christian, for instance, you and I 10 years from now aren't going to be much different than we look right now, right? You get to that certain age when you don't really look much different from 30 to 40, right? But if you're 18, you could look different at 28. You mature differently at that younger age. Again, I haven't seen the progression yet, but I think that's what they were kind of going. That's what I think that they were going for there, and maybe they missed the mark. But
I think they did miss it. I think that for the girls are maybe 10 years old, and then you jump to 25. Maybe it could work.
Right.
But they look like they're jumping from 15 to 25, which isn't a huge.
Right.
That's not a huge difference. It just, and I love the two actors and actresses in the first 5 episodes.
Yeah,
I thought
and that's the other part that's tough. That John and I even said that too. We're like, those are the ones you get attached to. Those are the ones that brought you into the story. Now you're like, where'd they go? Where'd they go? And it's the actors that you liked, right?
And if they can take, Benjamin Button and make him, I mean, look at if they can take all these actors and change them 50, 80 years, I mean, they can't do it like 10 years? I mean, come on, man. Anyway.
Now, let me ask you this, to bring it back to the, Rings of Power. Do you think that suffers at all? Because it's literally going head to head. and we have an alternative. We have
Mhm.
Rings of Power that is just so good right now.
I don't think it suffers. I think they actually feed off each other, and because you have a show on Sunday night and then you have one to look forward to on Thursday nights. I mean, I can't even
Yeah.
wait until Thursday nights. I'm waiting and waiting all week till Thursday nights to see the next episode of Rings of Power.
Yeah.
So I think you can't get enough of this Middle Earth stuff. It's great. It's fantastic.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. The Sunday
Yeah.
night one, my wife watches that one. So we
Yeah.
actually watch it on Monday nights because by the time Sunday night rolls around, we're just like, no, okay, it's
Mhm.
time to go to work in the morning. So we watch it like right after dinner on Monday night, and we just hadn't gotten to it yet this week. But but the Rings of Power I'm doing on my own, and I cannot wait to. I watch that actually on Friday mornings when I first get up, and I'm just like,
It looks so good. I'm starting to write this article, and I don't know if anybody else has coined this phrase before, but I'm calling them cinematic series instead of TV series or shows.
yes,
These are really cinema in a series, and so Rings of Power will be right up there at the top. I mean, it looks amazing. It looks like every penny they spent.
yeah,
It sounds amazing. I love the story. I love how it's, the palette is so much brighter than House of the Dragon, but I do like House of the Dragon, but I love how the palette's a little bit different.
yes.
Kind of helps me when I'm looking at pictures from each, because then I can distinguish
Yeah.
which one is House of the Dragon, which one's Rings of Power.
Well, isn't that like going back into the Lord of the Rings series, the movies? The palette is like, it's almost dead on. No,
Mhm.
I mean, I felt like when you go back and forth, but that's how I felt like it was. Like I love that term, cinematic series, because it really is. It's the production quality of a full length feature. And when you jump back and forth, and now we're streaming this on Amazon, who I didn't have high hopes for, but we're streaming this, and to go to the physical disc and watch the movies, and then jump back and forth, the drop in quality, I don't know. I mean, it's there. It's a little softer on the streaming, but to your point of like, you're so taken aback by the sound, which is really good, really dynamic, and the color palettes, like you were saying, that you're so brought into the universe that it's almost like which is which. There's so much going on that's in the positive that it's so easy to overlook that, oh, it's a little softer than a physical disc. I mean, it's great.
Well, I mean, I've started measuring bit rates, which I think you'd be interested in. I'm starting a little bit of a database here, and you're going to be a little disappointed that these shows aren't quite streaming as high as you think. Okay, but the Rings of Power is streaming really, 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 really high. It's running about 20 or so megabits per second, 18 to 20.
Okay.
Which is, that's comparable to everybody else. And you'd be surprised, because I'm doing some measurements of Apple TV also, and it's not much higher. HBO is getting a little bit of a higher peak, indicated peak, which means the highest it can possibly go for that particular feed. But it's actually up there. It's I can look at the numbers right now. About 23 would be. Let's see here. Audio.
That's pretty.
It's running about like 18 megabits per second. By the way, it's a different format too. It's a 3840 by 1600, which is interesting, right? Slightly different size. Whereas most of the other cinematic series are the 2160.
Yeah.
So like Thor: Love and Thunder is on
Disney Plus.
And that was running about that's running about like 17 to 18 also megabits per second. So the highest indicated peak rate came out of HBO, believe it or not, for House of the Dragon. But
wow.
So you're not seeing much higher than 20 megabits per second on any of these, even the best streaming services.
Right. And then what?
Yeah.
Blu-ray's data rate is about isn't it like 40s? in the 40s or something like that.
Oh, at least. I mean, we're going to talk about Return of the King. I mean, that's jumping up to like
No,
the
but
70 and 80 megabits.
That's the 4K, but a standard
Yeah.
Blu-ray is usually in the 40s, isn't it? And then a 4K is usually
Yeah.
70s, 80s, can
Yeah.
run or even higher. But
Yeah.
what? And did you do the same thing on like Return of the King, the physical disc? Do you know what the data rate
yeah,
is
I
on
mean
that?
that jumps up high, dude. I mean, that jumps up. I mean, I've seen it was jumping up into the 80s at some point, peaks in the 80s, high 80s, and I think it maybe even hit number 91 at one point. Yeah, it's quality stuff, dude. I mean that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, this when you talk about how good discs are still. I mean, you're doing Kaleidescape, which is amazing, which I'm sure has much higher bit rates. But coming out of the Apple TV 4K and the Fire TV, and they're not, they look great though. They look great, but you're not really getting much more than 15 to 20 megabits per second.
I've never gone down this rabbit hole. How do you? And I'm afraid to ask.
For what?
Like just the bit rates. Like
How do you get them?
Yeah, how do you get them?
So
how would I get them?
don't
Like
know.
from my Kaleidescape, how could I get that and see? What
I don't know any other platform except Apple TV developer platform. So there's you can log in, you can connect Xcode to your Apple TV,
Oh,
and
okay.
it'll show you different rates.
Okay. Yeah, I've never because I see that stuff online, and I'm more about. I mean, my entire thing is as you announced so beautifully about the experience, the sights, the sounds, right? So it's like I don't need to know the number because you could have a lower number, but if it's produced well, much like we're seeing with Rings of Power, right? And you're like, it's just produced so well, it's hard to tell. Like if you would just come into the house and you watch the show, you'd be like, is this a disc or is this streaming? You wouldn't know the difference, but it's when you get into that little nitty gritty where you're like, well, we're only streaming at 20 bits per second, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, well, now I see the difference. Do you? It's like, but then
I don't.
Right. You don't. I mean, over time you will. Like watching Return of the King again, it's the last time I watched it, you and I we've talked about all three movies. This is the third one. And when I watched them before, I didn't have the Lumagen, so I wasn't getting the level of HDR with my projector that I'm getting now. And it's a whole new movie. And because I'm actually getting to take advantage of that full bit rate now on a projector. Right. Whereas if you had an OLED all along and you're getting a beautiful image anyways, that's what you're getting. I mean, you're getting that full image. You're taking advantage of all of that bit rate. It's just so much. And it's watching this, it's 4 hours long, the extended version. And over time, you'll feel how smooth that is as compared to a stream. Right.
How many lumens is your projector right now?
Again, these are things I know projectors aren't very high.
Well, they go, I think most common ones are probably 100 to 150 at the most,
150, right? Yeah, something like that. And then everything's based off of that. And what the Lumagen does is what I was just talking about with John in the podcast today is that what I'm able to get is that, and JVC does this with their tone mapping, their onboard tone mapping is pretty good. But the Lumagen takes it to another level where my black levels have gotten deeper and my brights have gotten brighter. So as we'll talk about when we get into this, it's just, you can have a really dark nighttime scene, but somebody shows a torch and the torch is as bright as it can possibly be on my projector. Whereas before, the projector was it was like, oh, this is a dark scene. So it would bring everything down to give you that good quality of those shadows. But when it does that, it was bringing the level of that torch down too, which at the same time is still, I mean, it was a great image and you're just like, oh, wow, that looks great. Because your detail in the dark scenes was still really good. But now I'm getting detail in my dark scenes and those bright lights at the same time. And it's just, it makes it an all new experience.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing people need to remember is that when you go to a movie theater, I think the most lumens you're seeing is 50.
Oh, really?
50?
Yeah.
It's really low because the reality is that your eyes are going to adjust no matter what. So you
Right.
could have a super dark projector.
Right.
As long as you have the right lighting, it's going to look great.
Right.
But these newer projectors, they're getting up there, and especially with these, the laser projectors. I mean, you could watch those with your windows open.
Right.
They're so bright.
Yes.
It's insane.
Yes. And
So-
that's what it's for. A lot of people are like,
Mhm.
they'll have a room, a completely light controlled room. And it's like, I want a real.
Mhm.
I'm like, you're just going to be dumbing that thing down. I just had a
Right,
listener on Tuesday, and he's like, should I go with, he had the JVC, what is it, the NZ8? He has an NZ8 on the, I think it's the NZ8 on the way in. It's a $16,000 projector. But he's like looking at the NZ9, which is like a $26,000 projector.
Oh
And he
my
goes, it's a
God.
little bit brighter, and he's got a completely light controlled room. And I go, save your $10,000 because all you're going to be doing is dumbing down the brightness
Mhm.
on that $10,000 extra, because you don't need, what that's for is two things in a projector. You have ambient light and throw distance.
Mhm.
And screen size to throw distance.
Mhm.
That's all one thing, right? So if you're trying to light a giant screen in a well-lit room from far away, you're going to want that, NZ9
Right.
so that you need, and that's why it's called a light cannon, because it's shooting it across the room. If you're in a smaller or a normal sized room, light controlled, you're paying for just to say, hey, it can reach this. You know what you're
Mhm.
really reaching? And to your point, like once those bright scenes, it's still gonna be toned down, and once it's calibrated for that room, it's gonna be toned down to
Yeah.
what the scene needs.
Yeah, you know what? I'm sorry. Like I'm completely a nerd. When talking lumens, I actually meant to say nits
Yeah, there you go.
because lumens are more in the thousands. That's I'm
Right.
talking about the wrong thing. But yeah, so like the projectors are like 100 to 150, nits, and then like a
Right.
cinema projector would be like 50 or so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then
I knew
lumens
what you
are-
meant, but lumens are
sorry,
actually
yeah.
the power of the
Yeah.
But yeah,
So
it's
lumens comes in more into play when you need that, like you're saying, a really big space or throw distance, and also there could be some ambient light
right.
to compete.
Yeah, you're competing with other light, and it's like, and to be able to create an illusion of contrast because you're competing with that ambient light, you're going to make everything so bright that the dark scenes, like you said, like your eyes are adjusting so that dark scene is going to appear dark compared to everything else in the room because it's creating a contrast on the screen. But the best environment is still a light controlled room, no matter how strong your projector is. So,
Right.
but yeah, and that's what the Lumigen does is that for my projector that's putting out, 150 nits, it bases everything off of that. And that brightest scene is going to be, I'm going to get the full 150 that I can get. Right. But then and then everything's toned down from there, meaning like it doesn't chop anything off. It doesn't chop off any information like the Panasonic 820 will optimize the HDR for your projector. And what it does is it crops off the high stuff so that the projector can handle it better and give you a better image. Well,
Nice.
Lumigen doesn't crop anything off. It just compresses and it retranslates it so that you actually turn off everything that the projector does. You turn everything off and just you put it into HDR and just let it, actually, I don't even know if you do that. And the Lumigen is all the brains. And then the projector just does it. You calibrate it and let it go. So, and believe it or not, you can act with a Lumigen or a Mad VR. You can do all this with a projector that doesn't even have HDR because I've seen it. It's like, because the Lumigen's going to translate it and it's going to look like it's HDR because the Lumigen is the HDR. It's doing it for you. It's amazing. Crazy. So,
well, there are no projectors that'll do Dolby Vision, right?
no, there aren't. No, nope. So,
We'll have to nerd out some more about projectors and home theaters.
Yeah, exactly. That's I love this stuff. So, do you want to get into Return of the King?
Yeah. We got to do it at some point. It's almost like we're both procrastinating because we know the pain that's on the way.
The pain? Are you kidding me? The pain? Oh my God. Yeah.
So
What?
let me start off by saying this film was made 20 years ago, 22 years ago, even before then, because they didn't release it until 2000. They were actually making it before then, obviously, right?
Yeah.
It is still, you still cannot beat this film in terms of story, acting, makeup, effects, everything about the film, including the 4K Blu-ray editions, the extended editions.
Yes.
That were released a couple of years ago. You still can't beat it. It's still reference quality for everything else.
It is. It when they came out, you and I said that when it came out, it's like you'll compare everything else to this. And having gone back through all three movies, I think the only reason we stopped is because we just hadn't watched the movies in a while. But you go back through again, and I am finding myself going in and watching The Batman and watching, Top Gun Maverick, any of the movies that came out this year or more recent or whatever. And you're like, you're absolutely right. It's like this, it was made over 20 years ago and then remastered. And I don't know what's more amazing, how they made it in the first place or the artistry that went into the remastering.
Right. Yeah, it's incredible.
It really is. And you want to get a few of the shortcomings out of the way, which there are, because it looks so good that there are times where some of the special effects might suffer a little bit because you're like, oh, damn. like you can see, not green screen, but you can see they're superimposed a little bit more. Whereas that might have been more forgiving 20 years ago on film, but now where there's only so much, when you make it look so good, you're going to be able to see some of those flaws, if you will, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I also, for this review, I literally watched it on 3 different screens because I really wanted to see how it held up. Yeah, and this is something I haven't done with the other 2 films. And okay, and I've never ever watched a film on a little what do you call a smartphone? I've never.
You busted on Steve.
It's blasphemy. I could never watch. I listen music. YouTube videos, your Bright Side home theater videos. That's all I watch on YouTube. But I did watch it on a little screen, and believe it or not, it looks damn good because you can't see all those little imperfections.
Right.
I also watched it on about 130-inch wall.
Wall.
And I watched it on a 75-inch Sony Bravia. So.
Oh, okay.
And I think we'll get to that. There are points where, the bigger this thing gets, it does start to give a little bit.
Yeah, some stuff gets wonky, but only very infrequently. And again, much like I said about Rings, there's so much good that when you do see it, that you're like, and like that some of the, like you said, the tones, for instance, that, Peter Jackson used are really nice. Some of the glows, the hues that come across the screen that are, I know of one later on in the movie that I'll probably talk about when we do some scenes, but there's just the looks on their faces, the makeup. There's there's times you're looking at Gollum who's, you're like, what the hell? Like, it's like the makeup on, you're looking at the makeup on a CGI character, but it's not 100% CGI because it was his face. So you're like, but it's so, no, don't get me wrong. Some of the wonky scenes are Gollum, but he still does look really good. I have a scene in mind that I'm sure we'll get to in the scenes is where with Gollum, and it's an amazing feat of 3D versus flat versus not 3D, which is really, really cool. But it again, it's reference quality, and that is the definition of reference quality, because you compare everything else to it.
Mm-hmm. So how are we going to do this? We're going to kind of pull out some highlights as we go through the film, because I mean, this is, like you said, I mean, this is a long film. This is 250 minutes, and this
we'll
is
go through it minute by minute.
This is
hey, Jeff, my listeners are like, yeah, that's about the way DJ does it, right? It's like, all right, I'm in.
He's like, DJ, you have like an unlimited supply of hard drive space.
Yeah,
like 10,
I know.
10 terabytes of. I can
Actually,
go forever.
I do. I have my NAS running, so I have like 84 terabytes on that thing.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So
there you go. So let's do it.
So we're good. So and I'm 3 hours behind you. So
yep.
It'll be, if you go to midnight, it'll just be my
buddy
clock.
This thing, we booked this thing on the perfect week, because right now I should be at my hockey game, but I have a bye this week. So usually I'm not getting home until about 1 o'clock in the morning, and that's when I sit down and have dinner. So let's go.
Right.
At least I won't be sore after this, I don't think.
You might be sore.
I know.
Yeah,
where do you want to go? You lead the way.
Wait, you're going to be the guy. You're going to be the guiding voice. But just for your listeners, this is this is the extended version. It adds 50 minutes to the original version of the film,
which is already over 3 hours.
Which is already long, and it's the longest. It's the longest extension of the film. The Two Towers had about a 43. Was it 43 minutes? 44 minutes? 44 minutes.
It's the longest film, the longest extension of the film.
Right, and the Fellowship of the Ring only added 13.
Yeah, like 13 minutes, and then they added the end credits of like all of their fan base or something like that, wasn't it? Wasn't their fan club they were scrolled through? So like when you see the timestamp on it, you're like, oh, wait a minute. It's like a half hour of fan club people.
Oh, yeah, exactly. You think you're like only halfway through the film, and then you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, you should be, you're the guy, but I guess we could switch off too, and I mean, we could mention the extended scenes too, maybe. And
I don't I don't even know. I haven't watched the regular. I don't even bother with it. I watched the extended because when I saw it in the theater, I saw it with a friend of mine. I think I told you this last time, and he had read the books, and he filled me in on all the backstory stuff. After every time we saw these at midnight showings. And afterwards, we would hang out for like an hour, and he would tell me all the backstory stuff about like Legolas and how long these stories took. Like even in Fellowship, that trip across the Shire, didn't that take, in the books, it took years or something like that? For just to leave the Shire, it took years or something like that.
You mean when Frodo first leaves the Shire with no, actually it's the reverse. The total travel time for the Fellowship until the day that they destroy the ring in Mordor is actually just 6 months.
Oh, really? I thought it was a long time. I thought he had told me it was a long time. And
well, maybe it's just kind of reversed, but there are several things that we could talk about when the moment comes. But the film, the ending of the film, Bill. But well, we're going to get to that point. But the film makes it as if the journey took 4 years.
Oh, okay.
So maybe that's what you're kind of, there was some kind of mistranslation there.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
There are different things. The book is a little different. I'm not, I haven't read the books in a long time, but there's definitely some big differences. And of course, a lot of the changes are made just for cinema, right?
Yeah.
So,
oh yeah, of course. Yeah, they'll do that. So I'll give you just the beginning. We've talked about the picture, tremendous picture, reference quality, HDR, gorgeous, deep, rich colors. And it's a disc to judge all other discs, right? Ring to rule, disc to rule the other discs. And the audio, same thing. It's tremendous. the dialogue crystal clear. Absolutely. There was, just as a for instance, when Legolas is counting during their elephant battle, you could still hear him crystal clear counting out 23, 24, and your whole room is engaged. It sounds awesome. Let's see. Bass, foundation shaking bass. It's incredible. Completely justified. There's so much stuff going on. And it sets the mood too for this movie. Like there's some ominous stuff going on here, and that bass rumbling, it sets the mood of what you're about to see. And and again, going along with the different tones. They'll go from, say, a castle, nice bright tones, and they'll go right into somewhere near Mordor or the orcs or something, and it's dark. It's looks like a thunderstorm is coming in, and your room that you're in, especially I'm watching it on a 110-inch screen. It's like my whole room, the mood changes, and then the sound and the way they manipulated all that stuff using the sound and the picture all together is so artistically done. It's just so great. Tons of pans. I love my pans. Pans all over the place. Dragons flying or whatever you call those things. When I broke this down, I'm like, most of everything I would do for this would be pretty redundant from the other two or anything like that, because it is such a long movie. So I tried to find stuff that was a little bit different, like something that, all right, we know, like, everybody knows the obvious stuff. I'm just going to look for and there is some obvious stuff I have in my notes here, but there is a bunch of stuff that maybe you didn't notice, or, little quirks that I liked.
I think that's interesting too, because I think here's the thing: when we talk about the Batman, we talked about all these Lord of the Rings films. Every time I watch it, I see something that I didn't see before.
Yeah,
and that's the true sign of creating art. It's just so much and some of the best moments in this film are like a second or 2 seconds long.
Right? Yeah.
So so the first opening scene, I thought, and I rewatched it, I was like, wow, this is slow. This is when Smeagol and Deagle they end up having that fight. And, it's like 10 minutes of movie. And that's an extended version, by the way. I mean, that wasn't in the original theatrical film. Because they showed was diving for the ring.
Yes. I do remember that. Yep.
That was a flashback. But, so they, that beginning film is very creepy. And I was thinking to myself when I watched this again, I said, do you think Peter Jackson would have gotten away with this scene if we hadn't already had all his viewers invested in the first 2 films, No. But what didn't go in the theater, obviously, but the extended that is a very slow and creepy. And I can see why he pulled it for the theatrical version, because it just starts off really slow, and it's 10 minutes before anything really happens.
Right. And it's so funny. It's exactly what I had too. Yeah. I'm like, fairly slow as far as openings go, because the other ones, and even what was interesting, Rings of Power opened exactly like Fellowship. I mean, it's almost like scene for scene with the battle and with the narration, to the point that the narration starts and I'm like, is my projector on? Like, and that's what got me. I went back and I put in Fellowship and I was like, okay, my projector is on, and this is how you forget that stuff. But it was like almost like scene for scene dead on. But what I did notice is, and this was the scene where I was talking about the makeup on Andy Serkis, who was Smeagol at the time, but you were so close to his face, like you could see the caked on makeup on his face. It just was so detailed. But the vibrancy of the grass, wasn't that insane? Like green grass. That's like how the NFL does their grass when you're watching it on Sundays, right? And then you go to that same stadium and you go to watch your favorite team and you're like, how come the grass ain't so green? It's like, how'd they do that? Like, I want the green grass that I see on TV, not this, and it's like, speaking of a quick aside, I found that out from my daughter was house shopping. I didn't know they did this. They go in and they Photoshop the grass around these houses when you're shopping for a house.
Oh, I'm sure of it.
I know, but I'm
Yeah,
like,
green.
that's kind of crappy when you get there.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Wait, you gotta make. Hey, grass can look good for like when you put the turf in. It looks good for a week, and then it just gets burned up, and that's it. But grass is actually a good indicator of color too. Color correction. When grass, if your color balance is a little bit too warm, your grass is gonna look kind of muddy because you have that magenta in it. So yeah, it's a good sign of like your color balance too and being a little bit too hot.
This
warm.
Was very green. Very
Yeah.
like a neon green, like a lime green, like just like almost too much. You were like, that's almost not natural, but I mean, but they were going for that like flashback situation. The entire scene was bright, right? It was like this, and this was before The Ring. I'm wondering, and maybe you could elaborate on this. This is before The Ring has any kind of power. It's in the water, right? And then it was like, and you open the extended version with this bright, I mean, the sky's blown out, everything is very bright and beautiful and lush. And then all of a sudden they jump ahead in time to now, Smeagol's becoming Gollum, but everything is just muted. All the colors on the screen are gone. It's like, they're not gone. They're just, the vibrancy's way down. It's a lot darker. And that jump scene is like, it creates a big contrast in what has just happened.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. Yeah. I didn't look at that color transition.
Oh, it's a quick one.
Yeah. But yeah, so then we end up going to, we follow Gandalf, right? And Legolas.
Mm-hmm.
And Gimli.
Right? Aragorn, Legolas.
And they're on their way to Isengard.
Yep.
And they find Saruman there on top of his perch.
Yes. Yeah. That's another one where you look at times when Saruman's up there and, is it Saruman? Yeah. Okay.
Saruman, yep.
Saruman and
there's Sauron is the real bad guy.
Yeah, there's the real bad Saruman. Oh, right. But anyways, when he's up there, look behind him and at how sometimes the sky, especially when they have a close up on him, and you can actually see the clouds moving behind him. There's a nice 3D effect there because the sky is like a deep blue. Really nice. When they pull away and you can see that Weasley guy, what's his name there? Grima, he's up there, and the sky gets a little bit more muted there. But when it's really on him, you can really see the clouds moving behind his head. Is really cool.
Yeah, and I think this is really the first really good audio moment too.
Yeah,
when Saruman tries to cast that spell against Gandalf, and he just kind of just mutes it out. I mean, that's amazing. And then he says, "Your staff is broken." And you just feel like the splinter of the staff like spreading through the speakers in your home theater.
Yeah, the bass is, and the echo too. The echo of Saruman's voice when it's like Saruman's like he's on top of the tower, and it's like the echo that takes place as they pan the tower at the time. It's like at 12 minutes. I got 57 seconds, and Saruman's voice has an echo that comes from like all around the room. And it was really, really cool. It's not as prevailing on the like close-up shots of them, but when they pull away, it's almost like you're away and you're listening to it. They did a really good job there of widening the stage when you're looking at a wider stage and then getting in close on them. Now it's like they got the microphone in his face almost, so it's really, really cool.
Yeah, I love that. I love that scene. I mean, that's really fun.
Yeah. And
so then, oh, go ahead.
No, you were saying like the staff is broken and the staff breaks, the sound break it, like you said, super clear, but the sound transitions to a thunder roll too, that rolls off into your overheads and then to the rear of your room. So it's just like, that's what it was like. But yeah, the clarity and the distinctness of all the pieces, but then how it just rolls over you and then away. It was really, really cool. Really. And that one was I actually had that one. That's why I saw it 15 minutes and 5 seconds.
Right.
into the
Don't forget the 5 seconds.
in the 5 seconds, just in case.
Yeah. So I mean, you got some other scene. I mean, at this point, I was like, well, why don't let's just skip to Minister. Like this. But we can talk about a few scenes on the way to there because I don't know. It's just kind of a little bit. Well, this is the first. This you gotta remember. This is with the moment when Pippin picks up the globe, the palantir, the ball.
Oh,
that
yeah,
you can
yeah.
see Sauron in. So this
Yeah.
it's a really important moment for the movie. Yeah. So
Yeah. It's this. There's a scene at 20. I think this is it? Oh, at 25 minutes. Okay. So Gollum talking to Smeagol. This is the one that I was talking about earlier. So he's looking in the water. Okay. And one of them is, I think Gollum's in the water, right? That's the reflection. And Smeagol's talking to obviously Gollum in the water. But when they flip between the two and look at the detail, look at the 3D-ness of Smeagol, because he's the quote unquote live action. And then look at how flat the reflection looks, because it's just the reflection on the top of the water. And it's just like I said, it's at like the 25-minute mark, but I kept watching that scene over and jumping back, watching it over just to see, because I'm like, I've done a lot of drawings. I've done a lot of reflection stuff. We've had to do that. One of the things we were taught in school is you're not supposed to do like drawings from a picture. You have to do it from a mirror, because a mirror is a better representation of a 3D version of yourself. Even better is to draw somebody live, because now you're seeing it live. Even in a mirror, that's a 2D representation of yourself, right? And that's what I was thinking about here. I'm like, this is supposed to be the 3D representation of Smeagol, and here's a 2D representation, but the entire thing is taking place on my screen, which is 2D. I thought it was, there's so much detail there. It's just, it was just fascinating to me, because you're like, never mind the scene itself of the duality of the character and everything like that. But yeah,
this is the scene where he's discussing with himself, right? I mean, is
Yes.
this in the Two Towers also, or just this one?
The one with the water is in this one. And then I think at the end of the scene is where Sam finds him talking to himself, because this is where he finally they're talking, Smeagol and Gollum are talking about killing them. And then I think this is where he comes up with the plan to have them killed in the cave or something like that. But Sam overhears it, and then the whole thing is disrupted and the water is splashed at the end of the scene, remember? And that's when Sam heard it, but Frodo didn't. So that's where you get that. Sam and Frodo are a little bit not trusting of each other Frodo's not as trusting. So,
well, I believe this is the scene that Fran Walsh, Peter Jackson's partner, actually filmed this and did herself. She wrote it basically in a day or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to think if there's another scene where Smeagol is talking to himself, facing his alternate reality self or whatever.
Yeah.
But she did. She basically filmed it herself and wrote it herself, and they ended up using it. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Tidbit of information. But yeah, I mean, and his makeup I think too, what I did notice is that they start getting a little bit closer and closer to these characters. I don't know if it was just me, but towards the end, I mean, you're getting super, super close to Gollum.
Yeah.
And the makeup and even, Frodo, as you get, one way to get closer to someone to bring obviously, so it's it's like a camera trick, is to bring someone close to bring the camera closer to someone, then you're more engaged and everything becomes about that character, right? And so like as the film progresses, I think they get a little bit closer, because I remember the end of Return of the King, they are really close to Frodo and Gollum, and even Sam Gamgee. Yeah.
As the movie's progressing, you're getting tighter and tighter shots. And like you said, at the end, you have those real tight shots on Frodo as he holding the ring and stuff. And yeah, you're right. It's like it I didn't even think of that either. But now with the clarity that we have here and how it's a subliminal trick to get you more engaged with that character as each scene progresses, but it just shows the pacing of the movie too. That's what's really taking place here, because it's not like you're in their world the entire time, because you keep jumping to other parts of the world that are all dealing with the same issue, to varying degrees, right? And it's like, and then you jump back, but now you jump back to, maybe you're slightly closer or something like that. But yeah, really, really cool.
So what do you have next for your notes?
I have, so at 53 minutes, and I think we're here. Why? What do you have? Are you that far?
You jumped. Well, okay. I'll just
cover.
I mean, I'm just pulling off those few scenes. Gandalf and Pippin at 36 minutes running, galloping out of the horse stable is a really beautiful shot. Just take note of that one.
Yeah, and that's when they gallop out in the hooves. I noticed that. And with my new, like I got separates since the last time I watched. I have a Marantz AVR, a pre-pro, and then I separate amps, and the mid bass on this, it's just so crisp now. So those hooves hitting were just it's just like, those were just amazing. I didn't make note of it because I'm like, okay, I could be here all day talking about mid bass stuff and all that nice thump that I'm feeling and stuff, right? But I know exactly what you're talking about. But because once they hit the trail, and they do the long shot when Aragorn and Legolas are looking out over them, I believe, and they go across that water, and they're talking about it's beautiful, beautiful shot. The skyline in the background and everything. It's like, I want to say there was was that one of the scenes that had a rainbow effect? That happened quite a few times in this movie. They had you could see the band, like a rainbow effect, like to the camera, right? And it like an arc to the side. It was really, really cool. You got that prism effect going on. But yeah, it was beautiful shot.
And there's a beautiful shot, I think, that comes before the one you jumped to, was also Arwen on her journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another shot. That's at 37 minutes. And then she has doesn't she have a vision at this point of her child, right?
Yes. That's what, she was talking to her father, and she was saying that you saw, you saw death, but you also saw life. And that's where you have, like, again, it's the pacing of the movie. You go to Frodo, you go here, it's dark, it's dreary. You go here and it's bright, it's doing this. But then you go do something like this, and there's a haze, because it's a foreshadowing, right? They're seeing the future. So they're giving you these different patterns across the screen. And like you said, you watched it on 3 different screens. The larger you get, the more dramatic this comes off to you as the viewer, right?
Right. So another scene that came up just after that is about 42 minutes, 42:50 seconds, is when they show Minas Tirith, and Pippin and Gandalf are riding, and the cinematography is incredible. It kind of follows them as they're riding towards the city, to the top of the city. So they're rising up to the very top, where they're going to eventually meet up with Lord Denethor, the steward of
such a great guy, isn't he?
My favorite. I don't know if he's dead or not, but just burn him anyway.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
But that is just a gorgeous shot. And the crazy thing is that it's a miniature, obviously, but it's just gorgeous the way they filmed that and created the scenery here.
I know. I was thinking the same thing. It's like you see in Gandalf, like, ride through the city, and you're looking, I'm like, how did they come up with this idea of a city like that's like built into the mountain, but it's extruding from the mountain, so that you're going, you're going into the mountain, you're going into the city, which looks like it's flush, but but then he's riding loops around in there, going up and back, switchbacks or whatever, all the way
Yeah,
up
it's
to
traversing up the thing.
yeah, and it's just and the whole time. What was the timestamp on that? Because you're right, it was a great event to just like every time you watch it, you're gonna want to like look at different parts of the set. As you said, it's a miniature, but it's like think if that was real. And I did think of that. I'm like, imagine if somebody tried to recreate that in real life somewhere, like some billionaire or something was like, I'm going to build this out of a mountain or something. It's like, how could you even do that? You'd need the elves' magic to do something like that.
Yep, and you need an army full of dwarves too.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, so that was about 42 minutes, 50 seconds. And then there's a gorgeous shot at 44 minutes of where you can see, you're up at the top of Minas Tirith. And then you can see Mordor and Mount Doom way off in the distance.
Yes.
And that's I don't know if you remember that shot. But
oh, yeah. That's what we're going to get to. That's mine at 53 minutes. It's No More Stars. And I gave it 3 boxes of popcorn because I noted this when I watched it without the Lumigen the first time. And I loved this scene. But then watching it again and seeing the vibrancy of that. So, and what I'm talking about here, it's like Gandalf and Peregrine are up, Pippin are out on the veranda and they're overlooking or they're looking at Mordor, which is way off in the distance, but it's got activity. But when the camera is on their face, there are times when their face goes really bright red. But then there are other subtleties when they'll like look at each other and just the side of their face gets just like, and it goes along with the noise that you're hearing. You're hearing the rumbles. And if you hear a big rumble, you'll see a glow on their face. And it's the detail. It's like, these are those things that I talk about in my podcast all the time that if they weren't there, you wouldn't care. You would never know. You would never watch this scene and go, "Hey, why isn't that glowing on their face?" You know what I mean? It's like you just think it's still a great scene. Mordor's way off in the distance. Why would you even think it would glow? But the fact that they put that in there and it can just show off the system and
it also
looks so good.
It also enhances Gandalf's predictions. I mean, that's the whole conversation that they're having. He's telling Pippin exactly what he predicts is going to happen. So, yeah.
It is. It's, I mean, and again, that's why I love that scene is because of just that glow, because there's so much more to that scene too. There's great bass. I mean, it's a great set, great shots, but it's just that little extra piece, that warm light on their face that just like, I was like, love that. All right, you go ahead then. What do you got next?
Oh, okay. I was going to jump to...
I'm jumping to 105.
Oh, wow, you're making a big jump. So let me...
That's not that big. That's only 10 minutes. 1 hour and 5 minutes.
Let me just step back 2 seconds. When Frodo and Samwise and Gollum are walking through the forest, there's some birds that you can hear in the rear speakers. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yep.
That's something I picked up. And when they first get a look at the dead city, this is about 54 minutes. I don't know if you noticed this. When they first see the dead city, there's that greenish hue.
Yeah.
Right? Did you notice that?
Yes. And that's
well, but it's also interesting because it's kind of reminiscent of the dead army, right?
Well, yeah, that's because that's where they're going. And and it's that's what the other part is, just when they go in. So just before they go in there, that the air coming out felt like, so they're about to go into the cave. We're talking about Aragorn and Legolas. Is that the scene?
Oh no, I was talking about the scene with Frodo and Sam when they're overlooking.
Oh.
The dead city where the armies are coming out, where the orcs are coming out.
Oh, those. Oh, okay, that one. Yeah.
And they're peeking over the edge at the army. Do you remember this part? And
so,
then also you have the Nazgul the fell beast flying out,
Okay.
and do you remember that? Do you remember this part?
I'm not 100% sure of that part.
Okay.
Because I'm like, I have in my head, I'm hearing Aragorn and Legolas going into the cave because when you said the dead city, I was thinking of
no.
Right.
Oh no. I was talking
That's
about
later on.
Yeah. The
This movie
the
is
dead
so
the
dense.
dead men of Denethor.
Yeah. Something like that.
No. So their color sort of like that greenish ghostly color that you kind of saw in Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
And actually, I think you saw this actually one of Peter Jackson's early films, Heavenly Creatures. I believe he might use that same.
Well, that green comes up later in the movie with the ghosts.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I got that confused. I was like, that's where my mind went. I was like, that green is gorgeous.
And
later.
I apologize. I shouldn't have said that because but when I saw that green emerging from the city, and also like the ring wraith flying out there, I was like, oh wow, it's the same type of green that they used.
Oh, I know what you're talking about now. I know exactly what you're talking about. So they're on the side of the path, and then they all start marching out like following the not yellow brick road.
Yes.
They're and they're like, all right, I've caught up to, and they haven't gone up the mountain yet with Gollum. Right.
And and then the visuals, it's a really wide, this one really wide shot, and you never see this on a little smartphone, but you can but you see them a little tiny guys in the rocks overlooking the emerging armies, but you'd never see that on a smaller screen. It just wouldn't happen.
No.
But the audio in this scene is one of the precursors of what's gonna happen later with the screeches of the Nazgul. It's just insane. Like it goes right through you.
It almost feels like it has like the full range. Mm-hmm. Like you're getting like a rainbow of sound, right? Like you're getting the frequency from everything, and it's like you get that really high pitch, but you can feel it as well. Yeah. And it's you're right. It is of stuff that's to come, and I don't know. I watch this thing at reference level, and every time I put it on, my family's like, "Oh, he's going down there again." Okay.
So,
so now that we're all in sync again,
we're in sync. I know it's hard. I was wondering, is it possible that if I send you some screenshots, or you throw them up there? Is that too complicated for you to do during?
Yeah, that's for this. It would be
way too much. Too much trouble. But there's an also amazing shot where okay, so let's jump ahead. Did you go to Osgiliath yet?
I've been there when I watched it, but you mean right now?
Yeah, right now. Did you get to Osgiliath yet?
I don't know names invading? Like you do. I just know parts of the movie. See,
well, you might have this timestamp, but this is when Faramir is defending Minas Tirith from defending Gondor at Osgiliath. That's like the last stand or whatever.
Right.
And, Gothmog is leading his guys in the boats.
Okay. All right.
Did you get to that part, or did you skip over that part?
I don't know. I don't think I skipped it. I might not have. Oh. That was one of those battles, and that's where the Nazgul show up, right? In that.
No. This is that's later on. That's when they start battling. Yeah, it comes up though.
But I was at the 105 with the beacons, and this is where Pippin lights the beacons.
Oh, okay.
That one. So I think that's before what you're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yours is after. Yeah. So they do. It is interesting because it's it's almost worth talking about these scenes. Different battles because it jumps so much. But yeah, it's very quick. But they're Gothmog is entering the city of Osgiliath, and they're very quiet. It's a very quiet scene. It's so cool. And then one of the Gondorian soldiers sees them. And he's perched up, he's looking between the rock, like whatever you call those things, the castle opening there, and he gets shot with an arrow. Yeah. It doesn't have a top to the window, but
right.
Yeah, it's a little, yeah. And he gets shot, right? Do you remember that? Okay.
Oh yeah.
So that's where I was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and that, like I said, it's like those were the notes that I'm like, okay, here comes another, but you're right. It was a quiet scene, and it's like that's how it starts out, isn't it? And where it goes from there. So does that bring us up to the 105? Because
Okay, go to
with
105.
the beacons.
Sure. I don't have a timestamp on that.
Okay, so
the
this
beacons
is
are great. The beacons are great. Yeah, talk
Right.
about the beacons.
because he Pippin lights the first one, and then that's where it's just like and especially the bigger the screen you have for this, just the more engaging this is, because some of those ones, like to your point, if you go and watch it on a little phone, it's going to be really hard to see that one that's way off in the distance. And it's sometimes what I really liked is like how like they showed how vast of an area you're covering, because some people are in daytime and some people are at nighttime. So they've traveled through time zones.
That's interesting. I never picked that up.
You know what I mean?
That's
Like, because it
amazing.
gets dark in a couple of them, and then you just see it light off in the distance. But then we get to a brighter when they finally get to Rohan. When they finally get, it's daytime again. So they've traveled through time zones to see this, and it's like it's just each lighting. And this is where some of the special effects kind of get a little wonky, because a couple of them go whoosh, and you're like, well, that was kind of quick and bright, right? You're like,
well, they were using lighter fluid.
Yeah, a lot of it, like just gasoline. That's like whoosh. But it's still, the effect is beautiful, because you have the cool skies, the cool mountains, the cool palettes of color, but then you get that bright yellow with a little bit of reds in it, creating a texture in each of these flames that it just looks beautiful throughout the entire thing. And the first, I've seen it many times, and there's a couple of them you're like, where's it going to come from? You forget where it was, and then all of a sudden it's at the top of a mountain on the left instead of on the right, and you're like, oh, there it is, I see it. And like I said, the bigger the screen you're watching this on, the more engaging and amazing that this entire scene as it plays out is.
So then they end up with Theoden, right? And the last part of that, and he concludes that sort of transition.
Yeah.
And he says, Rohan will answer, muster the Rohirrim.
Right. And then the horns fill the room.
Yeah.
It's the score is ramping up the entire time while this is all going on. And then and then the horns coming. I think they start at the rear of the room. So yeah, really, really cool. Really cool.
Well, we're 1 hour and 13 minutes into it, about 1 hour and 10 minutes.
We're a quarter of the way through.
I'm going to have to skip over some of these less significant moments because
let's see. Encouraging mouse. I got a bunch.
Okay, so one of the most the ones that I really feel strongly about, I'm going to bring up. One of the most iconic images, one of my favorite images of all, is when Gandalf rides out with Pippin to sort of save or escort in Faramir and the remaining troops that he.
Oh yeah,
with the beam of light.
Yep,
it's insane, and then it's great because the Nazgul is coming in to basically take them out as they as they're riding in.
Did you notice, like I was saying before, there are times in this movie where you'll go from Minas Tirith, which is bright, nice city, beautiful city. It's white. Everything is beautiful, and positive, right? But then you'll go to like Frodo and Sam, and it's dark and dreary, like a thunderstorm's coming in. Well, here comes the Nazgul chasing that army to Minas Tirith. And here comes, the white wizard on his white horse with his white light. Look on the left side of your screen at the top, and you'll see the thunderstorm, the clouds, black clouds are coming in to meet it. And then Gandalf turns that away. Like, they're bringing the darkness. Like, darkness is going to overtake the land. And it was dark over them. And then Gandalf came out and lit the way and pushed that all back. But if you look on your left side of your screen, you could see those. They look like thunderstorms coming in. It's really, really, and it's really bright on the right side of your screen.
Mm-hmm.
And again, on a little screen, it's probably not as evident and it's not as dramatic. But now you have to look like this, turn your head on a big screen, and you look back and forth. Really, really cool. Lots of detail there.
Oh, absolutely. So that's the shot I have at 113. Oh, and the audio in that moment also.
Yes.
I put a note on it because the Nazgul and the dragon, the fell beast, it's just the sound is just incredible in that scene. It kind of puts you right in there.
Yeah.
As if you're riding along with them.
Yeah, you get the galloping, you get the Nazgul. I mean, there's so much, the bass, everything. It's so much to that scene. There's so much to the whole movie. Like you just keep, like you said, and then out 1 hour and 20 minutes. It's like
too much. It's like talking about like, how many shots are in this movie, 5,000 paintings or something.
I know. They're at 1 hour and 18 minutes. Okay. It's this one here I made note of, and it's Frodo's struggling to get up the ledge, and Smeagol's encouraging him, the master. And then we get like this deep bass rumble, and because the ring is calling out to Smeagol, but we also get this, like, you can hear the jingle of the ring on the chain if you pay attention. And it's like the contrast between the two, the brrm, and then you get the ching, ching, ching. And it's like, so the ring is calling out, but you can hear it. And it's just, it's like a close up of that. It's really, really cool. And it was something that I was listening to, and again, went back to, and I'm like, that's so cool how they did that. Cause like it's obviously, like I said earlier, you have that deep bass rumble letting you know something ominous is going to happen. But then you have that fine detail of the ring rubbing against the chain, that jingle that you would get. And it's just that, and every time they showed that ring, the glow of it, the vibrancy of that ring, even like like you could see the reflection of the vibrancy of it. Like it had its own light source glowing against. There were times when it showed it in his hand and Frodo's playing with it. And you could just see how, like, beautiful that, like how it, like I said, like it had its own light source. It was really, really well done.
I'm sure it did. I mean, it's really hard to take something that tiny and really give it life and give it so much real estate on a wide screen. I mean, you're talking about, now I know they probably had different sizes of the ring, right? You probably had sizes that are more for the humans to put on their finger.
Yeah.
And then you'd have other sizes made maybe bigger.
Well, it shrunk down,
for the
right?
beauty shots.
Even in the story, like at the beginning, it was on Sauron's finger, and then it shrunk down to like man size. In the movie, it just goes, I don't know, magic.
When Isildur chopped off his finger.
Yeah. Or his finger or hand, whatever, and the thing just came down. Yeah. Really, really. Oh, so cool. All right, what do you got next? Because my next one's I'm at 139.30, and it's a fun one. The detailed one.
I'm gonna jump through here. I mean, obviously we talked about the color of Sam and Frodo and Gollum walking through Mordor. The color palette's just incredible. I mean, I feel like the color correction software that they probably use for the 4K version is probably even better than what they used for the original films, because it's just really what they did. I mean, they separated. I mean, anyway, I'm going to get to a scene where just the color is really nice, but let's see here.
Speaking of all the colors, what I noticed is in this viewing is the detail in the color and the vibrancy and all of, like, when they had like wide shots of like armies, and you'd see the different colors of the different greens of capes of the men that they were wearing. Even the orcs had different tones and there was some vibrancy to they might have like a drab red on or something like that. There was lots and lots of rich color that it just wasn't pulled out the last time I saw this. And it's, I mean, there's, again, so much detail to this movie.
Right.
Amazing. let's.
So what's your timestamp? The next one you have?
I got 139:30.
Oh, go ahead, because the next one jumps pretty far here.
Okay, this one is I'll take my leave, and this is wherein Aragorn goes to, is it Gamling's tent to meet with Elrond? Not Gamling. So he goes into the tent to meet with Elrond. This is and when Aragorn first walks into the tent, the room you're in sounds like you're in a tent. Like your walls are going because the wind is blowing all the different materials all around you. Your ceiling is flapping, your walls are flapping, everything is flapping. I mean, it's subtle, but it's not so subtle because it's everything's going. It's not what's his name? Theoden. It's Theoden, isn't it? He's the one that brought him into the tent. Theoden was already in the tent, and I think he leaves. But he's like, I'll take my leave, and he walks out. You know the scene I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So Aragorn's in there, gonna talk to Elrond. I believe that's when he gives him the sword.
The sword of Elendil, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the sword that is reforged that Arwen convinced Elrond to do, which he didn't want to do, but he told him that, she basically convinced him to reforge it.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And but when he leaves, you can hear in the right rear of your room, you can hear him just briefly go. You can hear the side of the tent open up.
Oh, nice.
As he walks out. Yeah, it's really cool. It's
You really pick
subtle.
up these
It's
little-
wicked
yeah.
subtle, but you're like, and it's like, it's there, but it's really, really cool. It's like, he's like, I'll take my leave, and he'll walk out, and he walks past Aragorn, and then all of a sudden you hear, off
Nice.
to the right rear, because that's where he goes. He passes by on the right side, so it's pretty cool. Oh yeah, my next one. This is at 149 into the mountain. That's the one that I was talking about with the where they're going in. Aragorn, Legolas, and
Did they
Gimli.
go into the lair of the dead?
Yes, excuse me.
Yeah.
I'm losing my voice here.
The
yeah.
way is shut.
Yes.
It was made by those who are dead,
Yeah.
and the dead keep it.
And so
The
they're
way is
standing
shut.
on the outside. They read that, right?
Mhm.
And then that fog rolls out. But it was just, I don't know if it was, I think it was a combination of everything, but I felt like the temperature drop in my room. Like it felt like like cold air was pouring out because it was the sound, it was the image, like how clear, like it just, and I was like I felt like I literally felt like I could feel like a psychological effect going on here. Like, oh my God, it's getting kind of like when you hear bugs in a movie and you're going, get off me. I feel that, get off me, Same thing. It was really cool. I mean, between the HDR and the sound and everything, though, it was really cool. That's at 149.
And I love how Gimli's afraid to go in there, but he's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I'm a dwarf. How can I be afraid to go in
A
there?
dwarf not follow an elf into a mountain? Yeah. I don't think so. Yeah, and he just walks right in. Yeah, that, what was it, Gimli's line later on when he when they say like what was it, certainty of death and little success. He's like, what are we waiting for?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. These are great. And then the next one there I have is at 154:40. The way is shut. This is where that green, the HDR and the dead have more colors than there's green, but this is where the dead have even more colors. Like there are some reds to them. There are some different colors, golder hues to their armor that I had never seen before. Cause you're just taken aback by all that green. It just, and now it's like, and the robes, the gold crowns, stuff like that. It's just, and again, having that depth of field that you have, it looks like you're looking through them, but yet you can see, it looks like they're fading in and out of being there, so you'll have some intensity, but then all of a sudden they'll look a little more see-through. And again, when you pull away and you do those long shots and you can see different colored robes and everything like that, even though it's all still got that bright, vibrant green tint to the dead. It's just really, really cool.
Hmm.
Where are you up to on your
Well, in that particular scene, I really like the surround sound that's happening when they enter the lair. There's some really cool effects, and yeah, I mean that's a
there's
really cool scene.
echoes, some great
Yeah.
echoes in there of them talking to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of good stuff. When all the skulls start to come out and it feels like your room is filling with them, you get that
Mhm.
whole effect. Still not really sure how they didn't get swept away in those skulls, but okay. They're on the edge of a cliff, but yet they never go over. They're being hit by the dump truck full of skulls.
That skull thing reminded me of those the McDonald's playhouses where they
Yeah,
they have all the little balls the kids jump around in.
yeah. Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Except these are skulls.
Yeah. I like earlier on in the same scene, but earlier on, don't look down because they're just walking on, skeletons, whole, bodies of, skeletons. And then Gimli looks down and he's like, "Whoa." Yeah, really good. The next I jump to is 2 hours, 2 minutes. So only 7 minutes later. And this one was really funny. Made me laugh.
So did you jump ahead of the battle at
This is the
Minas Tirith
battle.
when it com-
This is the
'cause I got
battle.
158 for that as a
Okay, yeah, the battle has started, but the one I'm going to talk about here is a rock gets launched, gets catapulted, and it hits the wall. Okay, I think it was like one of the first ones too, because it's only at 2 hours, 2 minutes, 48 seconds. But it's like that one there, it's kind of, you got to be on that timestamp because it's like, it probably takes place 2 seconds after this. But the rock hits, and it's like, because it's coming right at you, right? If you remember this, it's like they show it get launched by the catapult. It's coming right at you, and it takes up your screen. But right when it gets to your screen and is breaking through the wall, there's an audible human oomph.
No, really?
Yeah, it's so funny. You can hear a
Oh my
oomph.
god.
Like somebody's like that. Not like like there is a I forget I didn't timestamp it, but the Wilhelm scream. There is a Wilhelm scream in here, and I believe it's when the battle with the elephants and one of the bad guys, Legolas shoots a bad guy off one of the elephants, and you hear actually let me play it. That noise. And but yeah, the audible oomph here, you gotta, like I said, 2 hours, 2 minutes, 48 seconds. On the extended version, you hear oomph. It's so funny. So funny. So what did you have at the one just before that? Same battle.
Oh, I just
Them marching up to it.
It's kind of hard to remember exactly, but yeah, at one at 158 when the towers and the orcs are moving forward, there's that gorgeous. Sorry, not the towers. The orcs are moving forward, but they have those those large towers that they're moving in.
Right.
They can mount to get over the castle walls. That's a great shot.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And also, so okay, yeah. So yeah, let me see, 158. We're getting towards the end of the disc, actually, which is a good sign.
The what? The first disc?
Yeah, aren't we?
Oh, I got the whole movie here.
Did
I
you
only have
separate
a
by
few.
discs.
Well, no, because I have the Kaleidescape's just one long movie.
Oh, you watched it on a Kaleidescape. Okay, so
Yeah.
for your listeners that are still on discs, I will. I'll tell them that we're really close to disc 2. It starts.
We should be. Don't they go to disc 2 when they go into the mountain? If I remember right, isn't it right when they go into the mountain? I think disc 2 was back like the disc 2. I think is into the mountain at the 149. Like we're gonna go in, and then it pauses.
Okay.
Is it? Am I wrong on that? Like 140?
Yeah, you might be right. I'm trying to remember now. Yeah, you might be right. Okay.
If I remember right, because that seems like a good segue right there. Like, okay, come back, and then we'll go into the mountain or whatever.
So our timestamps are going to be the same. So now I don't have a full. I have a few notes of the full.
That's a good point.
Stream. I mean, I did. I do have some because I was a little worried about this, but I do. Yeah, I could follow.
Yeah,
Okay, we'll be
you
good.
know the
worry.
scenes. That's a good point because
We know
my
the scenes.
timestamps are going to be way off because most people don't have the full run.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. You're right. So I didn't even think of that. But yeah, so I'm at Oomph at 2 hours and 2 minutes, and you're probably on to disc 2.
Yeah, I was thinking disc 2 starts with the ships. Those ships moving in, and then this is where
Oh, okay.
Aragon is already. Aragon has
All right, so maybe it's after they get. It's
yeah.
It's probably right. Yeah, you're right. I think you are. Yeah, I was on the wrong side of the entrance. I think it's right after they come out, and then
think so.
they go right to that. Okay.
So there's that ship moving in. This is about 2 hours and 16 minutes, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
What timestamp do you have for that? Where the ships? Do you know where that is? Where the ships are moving in?
I have 2:10 with
They're
echoes.
going to Mordor.
I only have like 1, 2. I have like 5 more scenes because after this, it's all just battle. It's all just like tons and tons of battle.
Okay.
And I was just like so engaged that I'm like, what am I stamping here? Like, you know, I mean, I can talk
Okay.
about these battles and we will, but it's like I just have some key scenes that I thought were really cool. But other than that, it's like we all know like these end battles are just
Mhm.
epic, right? And how the clarity of them, the sound of them, both the picture and sound on these battles are just so dynamic, and
Right.
there's tons to talk about. But go ahead with what you had and just
Well,
describe
the
the
next
scene.
scene
I'll
that
catch
I
up.
wanted to talk about, and then if this is going ahead too far, it would be in another extremely iconic shot is when Frodo is battling Shelob. The
Mhm.
first time he encounters
Yep,
her
that's right where I am. Yep.
her highness.
Yeah.
When he holds that light up, the elvish
The bands of it. Yeah.
it's incredible.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah. And with and this is part going back to like the color palette, like color grading and sort of the way color affects your emotions. Everything's really it's got a bluish cast. Like everything's sort of really cold, but then they have these little spot. My hands are huge. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Don't worry about it.
Hey, how you doing? I use my hands. But there's little spots of red everywhere. So it's a complementary color to the blue, right? So it's an opposite of the color wheel. And then there's also the blue eyes, like are really incredible also in that scene.
Yeah.
So you get that sort of colder, flat palette, and then these emerging little colors here and there. They're really, really nicely done.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. That's one of the. I had it at 2:10 and 5 seconds for echoes, and it's where Smeagol leads Frodo into the cave, and you can hear the echoes of the voice of Smeagol as he's bringing him in there, and the way it moves around you, behind you, and it's like, where is? Because you don't know where he is. He's kind of like over here. I'm over here, and it's like that one was really cool. But then again, like you were saying, the black levels there are so crisp because as you get in, and then the webs and the different the detail and the I don't know if it's not glistening, but you know what I mean? Like how webbing catches the light just that way. And how great that looked. And then to your point, that light, that, that elvish light or whatever, and the bands coming off of that. And it's almost like, I know exactly what you're saying. It's like pure white light, right? It's almost like the light coming off of that. I'm just in my head right now. I'm picturing it as like, it wasn't warm and it wasn't cool. Right. But the area around, like you were saying, is like a bluish tint, but that's what is enabling that scene to set and like be able to see the bands come off of that because it glowed in bands coming out of it. It just, and then you could aim it and it's like, kind of like Gandalf's staff, like what he was doing when he let out of Minas Tirith, right? Same idea. It's really, really like, I guess you can do it without HDR, but and it shows. But I think that HDR just really gives you that more depth, makes it feel more 3D. And I've said it before on this podcast. Like I really think we're like right on the cusp of passive 3D. because if you can improve on what we're seeing now, which there are times when I see some good HDR and you're like, feel like I could see, like, reach around that. Like, I feel like that's like,
Yeah.
how much further do we have to get to get that true sense of like reality, like 3D, where it's like, I feel like, hey, that looks right, you know, because 3D almost doesn't seem right.
Right.
You know, when you're watching a 3D movie, that isn't even how like real life looks.
Yeah.
You know, real life is 3D, but for some reason there's a disconnect there. And I think we're getting closer with it with the technology that we have with being able to have that HDR, and because that's the thing in real life.
Well, I wonder what, if James Cameron has anything up his sleeve. I wonder what he's going to do with this Avatar 2. Is it going to be the same type of 3D? Is it going to be different?
I know.
I assume he's improving on the technology. Wouldn't use the same thing he used.
Right. And
2000.
I know, what's 2009, I think. What's his name that did Gemini Man and The Long Walk? Ang Lee. Was it Ang Lee?
Did he do Gemini Man?
Yeah, Gemini Man, which he shot in 120 3D.
Oh, okay.
It was like I mean, it's an amazing. So
I know the frame is it's definitely odd to watch. I watched it. At 60,
so he did 260s, which put it at a 120 3D movie, which is like insane. So what makes me wonder about Cameron is like, well, he's just not going to copy somebody. He's not going to do that. He's going to try to best that, right? I would think. And that's, I don't know. I've been saying the same thing. I think Cameron's, all his movies, every time he puts out a movie, he tries to advance the medium somehow. And what are we going to get in December? I don't know. And I'm hoping it's something close to like a passive 3D. Like, I don't know. I just had a crazy idea. Like maybe that's why, not maybe, but I mean, they're trying to make money, but they re-release Avatar right now, 4K, 3D, go see it, blah, blah, blah. And then you'll have that fresh in your mind. What happens if we go in December and you're like, here you go. And you got no glasses, you got nothing. And you're sitting there and all of a sudden you're like, holy crap, that's 3D. And I don't have any glasses on my head. Wouldn't that be cool?
That would be amazing because 3D glasses suck, especially if somebody wears glasses. They suck. You have to wear one pair of glasses, another pair on top. Yeah. And it darkens everything. The technology that we use just darkens and nobody wants that.
I know. But how cool would that be? Like you just walk in and you'd be like, it would, I don't know. It's, I don't know. I'm not, and if he doesn't do it, somebody's going to do it. It'll happen at some point. Maybe not in my lifetime, but it'd be really cool if it happened in December. It's like, because then we'd all be like, how do I get this at home?
Yeah, there'll be a whole new TV called like the James Cameron Avatar.
That's
TV.
What they need. Yeah, but that's what they need. They need that new tech to sell more TVs. So somebody's going to have to do it. How do you do it? I don't know. How does it have to be shot? Who knows? And this movie here is a great example of it. I feel like this movie was shot, like we said, 20 years ago, re-rendered, remastered, I should say. And it's, like we said, it's reference, the disc to compare all discs. And there are times, like we were talking about with this scene here and that light, it's like there's times of like it feels 3D. And again, those webbings, the webs going across your screen, some are in focus, some are out of focus.
Oh yeah.
And it gives you that depth in your room, like you could,
Well, don't forget too, the audio in that scene is extreme. It's really cringy.
Yeah.
And it complements the visuals. It makes it even more realistic.
Yeah, it's a scene having seen the movie, it's a scene you're not looking forward to. You know what I mean? Like, because how creepy it is.
Especially if you got speakers behind you and to your side. It's just creepy. I mean, from a frontal perspective, it's not as creepy, but sometimes some of those sounds are just, Yeah. Anybody with a surround system kind of knows what we're talking about.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's pretty much my listenership. It's like everybody's, let me see. The next one I have is at Gondor at night. So this is I have it at 2 hours 21 minutes into this epic, and it's basically. I think this is where he was. Oh, what's his name? The keeper or whatever. And he was going to burn his son.
Mm-hmm.
This is that scene, and they're bringing him. It's nighttime outside, but now we're going inside as well. Down that hall, the tomb, which is like the tombs or whatever, where he's going to burn him, and you could. What I really liked about the sense of this scene is I think it was Pippin's up looking over the wall with the courtyard behind him. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The grass it was nice and vibrant there,
Mm-hmm.
but it was dark and it looked like grass at night. You know what I mean? It was very, very like clear. It was still vibrant, but yet darker. Which is to me on the artistic level, like a lot of people think like, I want to make my green look darker for this. I want to create a shadow in green. So they add black to it, which isn't how you make a vibrant green look darker. You actually add red to it, and it made it dark. It keeps the vibrancy of the green. You add a drop of red into it. It gives you a darker green because it's the opposite color. But black just mutes it out because black is the absence of color. So that's why it ruins your vibrancy.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, so that's, in here we're talking, but you have Pippin in the foreground, well lit, still clear, looks like he's being lit by a night sky, but the clarity was so nice. And then you go inside that tomb area and that felt like a dark tomb, but everybody was still well lit and clear. It wasn't like grainy. It wasn't foggy. It wasn't anything. It was just everything looked really, really good, but still appropriately felt dark. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, I get your point. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's like, because a lot of times you'll go into a dark scene and things get grainy and it gets too dark and you can't make out what anything is. But now you do have that sense that it's a dark scene. This here, it was like you knew it was nighttime and these halls were supposed to be lit the way they're lit. Because there's different lighting for nighttime in a hallway, even though the hallway is still lit, right? You don't have the ambient light coming in the windows. You just have the hall light. So it is a different level. And it is very accurate. And that's what I liked. And then you go outside and there's a battle about to take place. It's dark. It's this and that. So you had all that contrast going on. And again, like inside, like the metal had a different glow on it. The metal pieces, the fire. This is where the fire was like very vibrant against the darker, palette of the entire screen. And like I said, the vibrant green grass and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I am losing my voice here.
Ruh-roh.
Yeah. So what else do you got?
Well, I'm a little not quite sure where we are in terms of chapters or timestamps.
Just jump around. Let's just do this. People know the movie.
If you're watching the disc, in chapter 6 of the second disc.
Okay.
There's a really cool shot that I never noticed before. It happens really quick, but it's when they're using the battering ram to get through and they can't get through, so they bring on Grand.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a shot where you take the perspective of the door at Gondor, at Minas Tirith, the big gate.
Yes. I think I know what you're going to say. Go ahead.
Well, you are the door, and then you see Grand coming right towards you. But there's just one shot where you see the invading army from Mordor. Like you see them all lined. It's like an illustration out of it's like Middle Earth fandom.
Yeah.
Illustration. I mean, it's just an amazing picture that I never noticed it before. I never picked up that perspective before, that you are actually the door getting
bashed,
pushed in, crushed by Grand.
Grand.
But one thing I noticed, one thing I sort of like, I think there was a missed opportunity was with the low end sound. I didn't think they did enough with Grand or with the other battering ram that they had. I really wanted to feel it. Did you feel Grand like when it was smashing the door?
Now that you say it, I probably didn't, but there was so much going
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
like, cause you're jumping to that scene from the rest of the battle. And is it possible that they just thought, I don't know. You could have put a deep note in there and people would have loved it. But at the same time, it's like, it's a door. Maybe it doesn't because the door is giving you. I don't know.
I wanted to feel that.
You wanted
in
to
my
feel,
bones. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's one thing I want to pick up that I thought was interesting.
What
when
about
the armored trolls come charging in with those giant maces? I mean, what a scene! You know what I'm talking about, right? Those armored trolls, and they're just like flinging people around. I mean, that's really incredible scene.
Yeah. What about when Gandalf faces off with the Nazgul in Minas Tirith?
That's coming up.
Okay.
Coming up. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, this is my power, and that
Mhm.
when Gandalf's staff is broken, there's a bass note there that I don't think I've ever heard before.
Mhm.
It was just so sharp, so crisp and
I know what you're talking
distinct,
about.
but yet it still had that big power. Like it almost feels like, you know what I mean? Like a big, powerful bass note, like a boom. But then if you had just a punch to the chest, doesn't feel like a boom. This had both, and it rung out, and it was just like I said, it's very distinct. And I'd give a time at 2:31:30, but that's on the full movie. I didn't even think of that. But yeah, that scene is just so. I'd never heard it like that before. Really, really nice.
That was excellent. But the only thing that saves Gandalf at that moment is the horns of the horns of Rohan, right?
Yeah.
In the distance.
Yep.
Otherwise, he might have been toast.
Yeah. There goes the movie.
So yeah, I had that actually as a timestamp too. That sound, the audio, and the visual is really great.
Yeah.
So can we jump to the arrival of
Whatever you'd like.
the Rohirrim?
What's the Rohirrim? That group?
The Rohirrim is the force, like I guess it's just the name of the Rohan warriors, horse riders.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. When he says, remember that he says muster the Rohirrim?
Oh, okay. No, I don't.
Basically, like,
I don't have memory like that. I'm like, I know the scene. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's what a nerd I am. Also, is that
you're on the show. We're all nerds.
Oh, okay.
Didn't you just
wait? Can I take that back?
Yeah, I know.
Does that mean
what a nerd I am. I know you're here.
Does that mean I'm a double nerd because
no.
Because I'm saying I'm a nerd on your nerdy.
Yeah, exactly. On my Nerdy Legion podcast.
I went back and watched the Blu-ray version, which is, and I actually took this little video of the previous Blu-ray disc. Oh, wait, hold on 1 second.
Oh boy.
Show this to you. 1 second.
There we go. Kill Bill, the background.
So this is one of the best looking, and this is a better looking disc collection package media than the 4K.
I have that as well.
Oh, it's gorgeous. Look, you open it up.
Yep.
It's got maps.
I know.
It's got as if it's books, and it's got a glow. It's just gorgeous.
Yeah, it's gold. It's like gold foil.
Yeah. So I wanted to bust that out because I just wanted to get an idea of how much we've come along from the Blu-ray to the 4K. And I'll tell you, we did. I mean, the Blu-ray really, really looks great.
Yeah.
I mean, that was reference quality Blu-ray right there.
Yeah, it was. Still is for Blu-ray, but it's not. There is a difference. I mean, I think it's night and day. No. You've watched it more recently.
You have to look. Yeah, you have to compare them both. It all has to do with the size of the screen too, right? So if you're watching a 42-inch of the Blu-ray, that's going to look pretty darn good. But you take the Blu-ray and you blow it up to 75, 85 inches. Yeah, it's not. Then it becomes night and day. But the scene when they're on the hillside there, when the forces from Rohan are coming in.
Yep.
I mean, that sky has vastly been improved in 4K with HDR. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
that's really incredible. The riders in the distance, they're much sharper because it's a really wide shot and far away. But the riders have become really more sharp. Sorry about that. When you see the faces of the trolls, they're on Blu-ray. They're not as vibrant. Like when you go to the 4K Blu-ray with HDR, it's almost like HDR Blu-ray in a way. That the color is so much more vibrant.
Yeah.
And of course, the details are brought out with the Dolby Vision that it's just incredible. They look more realistic.
Yes.
It's almost like, in the Blu-ray, when I was watching it, I was thinking they look more like a painting,
Yeah. They look
then when
more
you
flat. Yep.
Yeah. And then you add the 4K and HDR, and all of a sudden, all these trolls and these monsters that are obviously not real, but they look real.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. That's the HDR allows for that vibrancy because your picture is your foundation is your black levels, meaning from your darkest dark to your brightest bright. That's your foundation, and then your colors go on top of that. So if to have a nice vibrant color, you need to have that bright light coming from behind that vibrant color that you want it to. You know what I mean? So like I was talking about the green grass, or you're talking about the colors that you're talking, like even just the image of these faces to give it that more 3D look, you have to have that vibrant color towards the front, and then it darkens towards the back. But as it darkens towards the back, it doesn't get muddied. It's still that vibrant color, but now it's it's that color just darker. So it's like it's all of that creates this illusion of 3D, of that vibrancy, of all of this stuff, and that's what that HDR can do. That as opposed to with SDR, you don't have that same level of gradation. It's not capable of going that many steps in that fast, in that at the source material.
Well, all of this too, you have to remember, this is a real true testament of how good this movie was made. The craftsmanship.
Yeah.
Because you start with, there's a saying, source, crap in, crap out, in terms of source material.
Yep.
This material is so good. It's just enhanced with HDR and the 4K.
Well,
4K detail.
Yeah. They did a lot of work because I think they weren't shot digitally, were they? Because if they're shot on film, everything's there. Because if it's shot on take Lawrence of Arabia, that looks gorgeous, right? But that's shot on film. Film doesn't have, the HDR is inherent. There's no pixels. There's no nothing. It's just a piece of film. So with that source material, you're like 100% clear.
Yeah.
And it's how you render it from there. With what I'm not 100% sure on what they did here. I think the first one might have been shot in a certain I do think that these have got progressively better. I feel like there was a little bit better quality in Return of the King than Fellowship. But
they're all shot at the same time. All these films were shot at the same time with the same equipment. But I think maybe you're thinking of The Hobbit, which is a different technology.
That was a different technology. Did they shoot that digitally, but they shot it at a higher rate or something like that because they had the technology at the time? I do remember hearing something about it with Lord of the Rings, but maybe they had to put more effort into Lord of the Rings because it was shot so long ago to remaster these things. I watched a bunch of the YouTube videos Peter Jackson put one out too on what they went through. But it is amazing what they did originally, but it's also to the point, like you were saying, it's how they were able to remaster these things. Because think about this, go back and watch shot relatively at the same time is the original not original trilogy, the prequels for Star Wars.
Oh god.
You know, Phantom Menace looks horrible.
Oh.
It's so digital. It looks horrible. You okay over there?
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I just accidentally touched the mute button.
Oh, jeez. It's okay. You weren't saying anything.
But you were. I missed it.
Oh.
So we're talking about Star Wars. And,
Phantom Menace.
of the Menace. And
It looks horrible because
Yeah.
it was shot digitally, and there's only so much you can do with it. But this one here, they shot. I don't know how they shot it, but it looks unbelievable.
right.
Shot relatively at the same time. The elephant battle.
Elephants.
Elephants. That battle. Talk about there was bass there. You felt that bass,
Mm-hmm.
right? It was that was amazing. That and the Legolas, getting up on that elephant and then dropping that thing, coming down. That's one of my favorite scenes. Did you see my tweet that I put out about him mounting the horse? And that was a couple weeks ago or something like that. Greatest mounting in all of cinema. And
it was great. I mean, I can't in my head. I still can't think of how he did that. Wouldn't that break your arm backwards?
Well, he's an elf. He's an elf, so they're lighter and more nimble, clearly. But I am amazed by that shot because I think of the first time I saw it, and I think that was, and this is in Fellowship, of course, but the first time I saw that shot, that's why I couldn't wait to get it at home and be able to.
Did you want to take horseback riding lessons?
No. Yeah, exactly. Sign me up. But then
for me, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, but then in Return of the King, we have that same instance here on when he takes down that elephant or whatever, and I couldn't wait to see that at home. And now seeing it again with the clarity in the 4K with the HDR, and this is where he's climbing up the backside of the elephant and he's taking out enemies, and he's like 23, 24, 20, and it's like so clear, but yet you have the pounding of the feet going on and all the music and this and that, and then it's awesome.
Well, did you notice that he uses the arrows as ladder?
Yes.
Holds to get up, and that it's a smorgasbord of visual candy. This scene here, I mean, there's so much stuff going on. I love it.
Horses being stepped on.
Oh, it's terrible.
Oh,
it's terrible. I hate seeing all those horses.
I know, it's
tossed all over the place.
Yeah. Oh, I have a funny one for you. I didn't timestamp it, but when Theoden is under his horse. You know the scene when he's under he's been taken out.
Oh, when the Nazgul knocks him off.
Yeah, and what's her name? Not Arwen. Is it
Eowyn?
Eowyn
with a little accent. Yeah.
Okay, she comes up to him, and she comes up on the right side of the screen, and she gets. But it's a high shot. You're looking down. His legs are misaligned and they're too long.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
didn't notice that.
Oh, yeah. You got to look at it next time, right? I didn't timestamp it, but I was laughing and I was going to write it down.
I don't want it to be ruined.
No. It's funny because you look at it and he goes, I am broken. And I started laughing. I was like, yeah, you are. I'm like, because you see how wide the horse is, but him as a person, he would be like 9 feet tall. It was like, because he's got this little stump of a body and then his feet are sticking out the other side of the horse. And it was like, no, I don't think so.
It's like the Wizard of Oz did a better job of
Yeah. It was the same thing. And I think, I do think they're slightly misaligned. Like they're a little too far over to the right. Like it's
maybe they're somebody else's feet.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not his.
Exactly. That is possible. There were a lot of bodies.
Yeah. But you know what's funny is when I was watching this, you have, I love Merry, and I love his face when Eowyn, when he wants to go to battle so bad, and Theoden says, "Look, it's not a place for hobbits,"
Yeah.
And they're all riding off, and she grabs him by the back and she sticks him up on the horse with him.
Yeah.
And he sees her and he's like, my lady, right? So, but in this scene. It's really funny. I don't know why I thought of this, but when they're riding through, they're on together, and of course, Eowyn, is slicing through the legs of these giant Oliphants. I mean, come on, she takes like at least one or two. Well, I think she just has one sword, but she swipes the leg, but when they're running through the legs, it reminded me a little bit of Luke Skywalker, sort of like going through all the tunnels in the turrets that are firing on him and the TIE fighters, and he goes into the canal and he's no, actually it reminds me of Luke Skywalker when he's in the
snow
speeder under the legs of the AT-ATs.
Yeah. That's what I thought you were going with. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's really like that. Yeah. So anyway, but I wanted to bring up another point about Legolas and his dexterity.
He's my favorite.
So there's a few scenes in the Lord of the Rings that for me almost jumped the shark. Okay, and
almost
jumped the shark. There are a few moments that
there were no sharks in this movie.
Yeah, well, obviously, like Peter Jackson, watched all the Star Wars films. So there's a lot of like similarities to some of the Star Wars stuff too. But like Legolas, I like the horseback riding thing where he flips backwards and he's up on the horse with. Was Gimli on that horse?
Yeah.
He was on the horse.
Him and Gimli rode mostly.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And the other one that kind of like for me was like in the Two Towers when Legolas is skateboarding down the on his shield.
Yeah.
Down look at you love it.
Oh yeah.
And he's shooting as he's going down.
Yeah.
And then for this one here, where he kind of like surfs off the trunk of the
and lands. And then Gimli goes, "It's still only one."
There you go. Still only counts as one.
And anyway, I think it was Two Towers when he shot the one Gimli was sitting on, and he shot it between Gimli's legs, the orc.
Yeah.
And he's like, he goes, it was twitching. And Gimli's like, and they pulled the shot back. He goes, yeah, because he's got his axe lodged in his skull, and the body was still twitching. It's so funny.
Well, you know what's really funny is, I mean, in all these films, obviously, like an arrow is never going to knock you down unless it goes straight through your neck. And an arrow is not going to pierce armor. I'm sorry, it's just not going to.
An elvish arrow.
An elvish arrow would. Okay.
That he never runs out of, by the way.
He never runs. Well, I guess he takes him out once he's finished.
True. Yeah.
But I mean, when Boromir in the first film gets shot, I mean, that's actually a more realistic way of dying from arrows. Is that you're just going to die slowly.
Right.
You need a few of them to really take you out. But it is kind of funny when just
and those were
one
big arrows too. In that one,
those
and
are
you could feel
Orquai arrows,
and you could feel that. Speaking of like sounds and stuff, you could feel the tension of that bow when he was pulling, and you hear that, and you're like, oh, and then the thump when it went through. I mean, those were thick, solid, heavy arrows, and you're like, oh yeah, not just like an arrow, like a normal human arrow. These things were,
I mean, those are Uruguay. I mean, those guys are big. I mean, that's like a Shaquille O'Neal arrow compared to like us.
Yeah, exactly. No, really, it's but I think the sound really helped translate that.
Oh yeah,
right. It's like just I mean, one, the thump of when it hit, but two, also that tension on that bow between the string and then you could hear the bow bending and stuff. Just it really, it was really really cool. In that battle at the end there of Return of the King, when the ghosts showed up, we're back to that green again, and the difference in vibrancy as there were different levels of it as it ran. Like if you were in close on them, you had some nice depth to that. Like there was some darker greens, and then there were some lighter greens in there, but they were all that lime green. But then when they had the long shot, there was a nice flow, like almost like a river, like water running, like it just really, and it just gave it that extra bit of texture that I hadn't seen before that I thought was really cool.
Yeah. I like how they handled the dead men of Dunharrow. I think they looked, really cool. And I think they added a whole other level to the battle. Obviously, they needed some help. They just come in and they just wipe everybody out.
Yeah. Yeah.
know?
Yeah. It just
They,
ended it just like that. I'm like, why did they let him go? They should have used him the rest of the way. I'm
well,
like,
that's what
we just
Gimli
got one
wanted.
more.
He wanted.
I know.
he
Gimli
wanted
was
to
like,
keep him.
what are you doing? What are you doing?
Oh boy.
Two other things. I have two other things. I have, what was the guy's name? The mouth when they're at the wall.
Oh, so that's an extended scene, which amazingly, how did that not end up in the theatrical version?
It
That guy is
is
insane.
amazing.
I don't know his
It
name.
looks
I call
so
him
good.
the emissary because he reminds me of the emissary in one of the film. I don't know, another film, but yeah, I call him that. I don't know his name. I wish I got to look that up, but
It is
the makeup,
the
is
makeup,
insane.
the
Yeah.
detail, the
Yeah.
spit, whatever you
Yeah.
want to call it. It's like venom.
But you're jumping far, right? I mean, we try
Well,
to. You want to
that's-
jump to the bigger.
What else did you have? Because the last
Oh.
one is a big jump. It's like almost at the, well, for all intents and purposes, the end that not the
Mhm.
end, but it's the end of the battle and stuff. But yeah, what else did you have in between?
Well, I can skip some of this stuff here. There's some other great shots. We talked about some of these.
There's so much. There is so much.
Oh, one of the extended scenes that I think worth mentioning is when Aragon holds the Panandril. What is it? I said it before. The globe.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And he sees Sauron in there.
Yeah, sees, and then you see Sauron, and then he sees what's her name, his future bride,
Arwen.
That's the Arwen.
Arwen.
Yeah, he
ARW.
sees her,
Yeah.
and then he breaks his necklace, which he
Mhm.
had foreseen earlier in the movie. Remember, he had seen that early, and that shatters, and then they go right to the ride into.
I mean, that's such
Mordor.
a key moment that it's hard to believe that they kept it out of the, because what happens is in that scene, he basically tells Sauron that he's coming
Right.
to the Black Gate. And so when I saw him in the regular theatrical version, I was like, oh, okay, where are they? They're at the Black Gate. Like, I didn't really understand why they were there. But, he basically is leading Sauron's army away from from Mount Doom so that
Well, they
Frodo-
even in the theatrical, they laid that out. That's Gimli giving his line like certain death or, with little chance of success.
That's true.
So they lay out why they're going there. But I
Yeah.
think what they took out was
Right.
Aragorn and they just took out Gandalf saying he's going to see it as a trap and he's not
Right.
going to bite. And then Aragorn says, I think he will. So then he
Right.
goes and grabs the magic 8-ball and holds the sword up to it and tells him,
Yeah.
I'm coming for you. And then he
Yeah.
throws it back on him. Sauron throws it back at him and says, oh yeah, well,
Mhm.
look at what's going on here. And he shows him
Right.
and that, but then they jump right to the cut of them. He's in his leather and riding towards the wall.
Right. So, I mean, I can't believe that they took out that scene at the Black Gate with that guy, with the teeth.
The mouth.
The mouth.
The mouth. Yeah. 'Cause that's all he is. He doesn't even have eyes. They're just covered by his shield.
Yeah. And the detail on this helmet and whatever that is that he's wearing,
Yeah.
you can see all these little inscriptions and everything that were really hard to see
Right.
on DVD and Blu-ray or, streaming or whatever. But it's so detailed, and that mouth is just the nastiest, the nastiest thing ever. It's a great character, and I love how they put them into the extended version.
Yeah, it's a great scene, and that the detail in that mouth, it's like it's like a train wreck. You actually like lean in because it's so gross, right?
Yeah.
It's like the drool or spit or whatever just dripping off of his mouth, and you're just like, and it's got like a yellow tint to it, and it's but then the red around it, it's just, it's just so.
But that's what I'm saying. Like that is. Those effects, special effects are just incredible that they did this.
Yeah, it is. It is incredible.
And then he slices off his head.
Yeah, just
and Gimli's like, Well, I guess that concludes negotiations.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. All right, back in line. It's like, let's go line up to die.
Oh, God.
Yeah, literally the last note that I have is when Gandalf is flying on the eagle to Sam and Frodo, and
To save them?
to save them. Yeah.
Mhm. Oh, so you skipped most of that battle then?
Well, yeah, because it was just, again, more of the redundancy
redundant.
of like, oh, here we
Yeah.
go, more battle.
Well,
We have the close up of we talked about earlier of Frodo at
Mhm.
at the fires of Mount Doom, and he's
Mhm.
wants to drop that in, and I mean there's a lot going. I mean, it is just loud. It is, I mean, full room engagement. There's tons and tons of stuff there,
Mhm.
but like the little detail stuff is, and that's what gets me to the bands of light. It's like Gandalf's flying in, and it's like these waves of light are coming
Mhm.
across the screen. It's like
Mhm.
Gandalf's approaching, and it's like I said, it's bands. It's not
Mhm.
just like a glow. It's like a
Well-
wave of light. It's really, really neat.
This is one part that I think that your listeners might enjoy is that when Frodo is entering Mount Doom, he's walking up, and there's that shot of the opening, the doorway,
Yeah.
and Samwise Gamgee is further back. But when you get in there, it's like the subwoofers take over,
Yeah.
and it's you know what I'm saying? Like those subs take over your soul when you're inside there.
Yeah.
You hear the creaking of the mountain, the lava.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is when, I don't know if they planned it, but that is the most intense, for me, was the most intense low frequency moment in
Yeah.
the film.
Yeah. Probably. Yeah. It's like, yeah, because it's so long lasting too. It's
Mhm.
not just a thud,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
It's just it's the entire event. And again, it gets to how how the movie was built, how it was
Mhm.
like getting back to your point of getting closer and closer on the shots.
Mhm.
Well, there were times earlier in the movie where there was some bass coming in to let you know something ominous is going to happen. Well,
Mhm.
here we are. I mean, this is it, right? And I think that's also building to the fact that once the ring goes away, you're setting that juxtaposition of like, we had all this sound, all this bass, all of this noise, and now it's like, we're going to have a time of peace here. So you you take all that away, changes
Right.
the mood, whether you realize it or not. Right.
Right.
It's like, I mean, it just builds the entire thing. Not only does it activate that scene, but it's also playing on what's to come when peace takes place,
Right.
really nice.
Well,
Cool.
I do. I think your point about the scene, the Eagles rescuing. I mean, when I first saw that, I didn't realize. Well, I thought they were. I didn't know how to. if it was like a Hollywood type of ending, they would have figured out how to get out of there, or surf the lava, like in Star
Right.
Wars. They would, like in the Star Wars.
Yeah.
Which is the one where Anakin and Obi-Wan are surfing on those chunks of metal on the lava.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And they're
Um,
fighting in, that's episode 3.
Yeah. So I was like,
Revenge
oh,
of
they're
the
gonna
Sith. And
are
they're
they gonna
like,
surf off these.
yeah. I
You've
don't,
lost. I've got the higher ground.
yeah.
Oh my god! But it was pretty funny that they're surfing on those chunks of whatever they were.
Yeah.
But yeah, great ending. It's a scene that I mean, you got to feel some emotion at the end of this movie.
Yeah. I felt the most emotion I felt was when Sam picked Frodo up. That
Mhm.
was amazing. Right. And it's like, he's like, I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you. And he picks him up and he starts carrying him up. And it's like, he's now you're all like, I'm like, you're all like charged for it. And you're like, yes, Sam, you're the best. And then then all of a sudden, like, Gollum shows up, a battle ensues with Sam, and Frodo's now sprinting up the mountain. What were you, just resting on Sam's back? Thought you were dead. It's like, well, he's like, oh, he's going to carry me. All right. I'll just let him do it. Oh, he's fighting him. Now I'll run. It's like, where'd he get the energy?
He had a Red Bull in his back pocket.
Yeah, exactly. Like 2 minutes ago, you were like half dead. You couldn't
Yeah.
move. Sam had to
Yeah.
carry you. Now you're running up a mountain covered in lava? Okie dokie.
All of a sudden he's
Little
saying
flaw.
Bolt.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Look at him go. Sam's probably
The
like,
Flash.
what the F? Like, I carried you the last 200 yards. Could have been
Oh
walking.
my God. Too funny.
Oh, good stuff. And then,
So much
I mean,
to talk about.
oh, yeah. But I mean, then from there, we just go back to what is it, a half-hour wrap-up, I think? From there, it's just basically it's like basically a half-hour wrap-up of
Yeah.
this is where they all go.
Well, hey, they're wrapping up the third age, dude. They're going into the fourth age, the age of men. They got to give it a little time.
Now, that's the end, though, right? There's no more books after that, is there? Just like the Age of Men. We're in the Age of Men now, right? So this is supposed to be that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He had a lot of unfinished stories, and then Christopher, his son Tolkien, completed some, I guess. But one thing is, go ahead.
No. I was gonna mention Rings of Power, but go ahead.
Oh yeah. One interesting note about this is that if I remember, so in the Return of the King, they defeat Saruman at Osgiliath, but in the book, the hobbits go back to the Shire, and it was under siege. So there's fighting at the Shire because they were invaded. The whole area was invaded. So it's a big cleanup, and there's some fighting there. And then eventually they go back and they find Saruman and defeat him at Osgiliath. So it's kind of interesting. That takes place after they return to the Shire.
Cool. Yeah, I did not know that.
There's a huge differences. It's just very.
But see, so there are huge differences, but I don't remember any backlash back when these came out.
One of the reasons is because think about this: if you had yet another battle after the massive battle first, there's big battles in every one of these movies, but you've got Minas Tirith, which is a massive battle, and then you've got the battle at the gates.
At the gates, that was a big
Mordor.
battle.
That was a big battle, which I thought. I mean, personally, I thought that there were too many at Mordor because you think about like how many they had sent to Minas Tirith. I mean, I don't know, maybe not, but Tolkien wrote about thousands and thousands. It wasn't just like a 2,000 man army. I mean, it was like in the tens of thousands. But so where was I going with this? Oh, so in terms of movie making, having that massive climax and then throwing the ring into Mount Doom, into the lava and all that, and kind of winning, and then the Eagles pick them up and stuff. To go to another battle wouldn't have made sense, right? So that's probably why they put. It's just weird, but they did put the defeat it.
Yeah, they just end the movie right there
because the Ents would still be fighting in the book.
Yeah,
still fighting there. Yeah,
because they didn't know it's over. For all intents and purposes, they're still battling, but they don't know they've already lost.
Yeah.
So, no, but what I was going to say about Rings of Power, bringing it back to all of it, so this is the end of this is the end of everything of the ring, but what Rings of Power is this? That's the origin of these rings, isn't it? It's like this is. So we're going to be able to see the full length. The lifespan of these rings, because the rings don't exist yet, right? In Rings of Power,
I don't think the elves have forged them yet,
right? Because that's what I was. They were who forged the elves forged them, and then they gave them to men, gave them to elves, gave them 9 to men or something like that, or
right.
And then, but then Sauron forges his own, right? That's where that one ring came from. The elves didn't make that one. Is that true?
I thought they had made all of them one ring to control them all.
Well, why would they do that? I thought Sauron did that to try to control the other ones, because it was forged from in Mount Doom. That's what they said. I thought at the beginning of Fellowship, it was forged in the bowels of Mount Doom, and that's the only place it can be destroyed. That's why it had to go back there. And then in Rings of Power, isn't that Sauron that we see? Isn't he one of the characters?
Oh, you mean the guy that ends up, the weird guy that ends up in a asteroid crater?
No, no, that's not Sauron.
Who are you thinking of?
No, I'm thinking there's a guy that I think is like the leader of the evil people in Rings of Power. And I think that's Sauron. He just looks like a knight right now. He's in black. He has the gloves. But he hasn't gotten his power yet because I don't think he's created the ring. You see what I mean?
Yeah. I haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah. I think the one you're talking about, is everybody's speculating on Twitter, is Gandalf.
Well, yeah, or Saruman.
Yeah, I thought of that.
I thought it might be Saruman, but he's good, so maybe he's Gandalf.
Saruman was good at one time too.
Yeah,
because him and Gandalf were friends.
And then there's other people that think he's the the guy, the wizard with the rabbits. Drawing a blank on his name. It's getting late.
Yeah,
in the Hobbit films.
Oh
the
yeah,
wizard,
yeah. I don't know. I don't know the Hobbits as well. I've only seen each of them like maybe twice. So,
and I don't think it's Tom Bombadil, because nobody knows the history of Tom Bombadil, who was excluded from Lord of the Rings. Ooh. But he's been through a lot of battles though, but nobody really knows the origin of him. But he's seen years and years of battles, so I don't know. There's a possibility there, but I'm probably just
I know that name too.
But you said Sauron is in Rings of Power.
I think because
he's the bad guy in Rings of Power is the big bad guy is Morgoth, and Morgoth was the bad guy, and like Sauron was like his lieutenant, like his underling.
Right. Okay.
Right? And when he was killed by who was he killed by?
Ooh.
Isildur, right?
Okay.
Sauron took over. Is that right?
No, Sauron. Right. You mean at the beginning of Lord of the Ring, at the beginning of Fellowship, when his hand gets chopped off?
Yeah,
that's Sauron.
Right.
He gets killed, but he comes back with power. But he needs the ring back, so he's regenerated over thousands of years. He's somehow, and now he's looking to rule again, but he needs his ring. That's what. And that's
when did I see? That's right. They haven't shown Morgoth die.
Ruining it.
Yeah. I'm getting all my Tolkien lore messed up now. It's too late.
No, that's all right. All right. Do you have anything else?
Stephen Colbert when we need him.
Yeah.
He'd straighten me out.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have anything else?
No, I'm sure it's pretty late for you.
Yeah, it's only 12. It's just midnight.
So how long did this go here? Let's see. 6.
We're at 2:24.
Oh wow.
2:24. A little get lopped off the front when we were in the green room. But yeah. 2:24. You did. This is going out all on its own. I'm gonna put it out Friday with the other one because there's no way this is gonna fit in and be one long. It would be like a 5-hour podcast. So I'll put it out in conjunction with, and then when I get to the segment that I already recorded with John, I'll say, yeah, we'll go to Jeff right now. And then I'll be like, yeah, we're staying here. Go see Jeff.
So it'll be a separate video then.
Yeah, it's going to be a separate. Oh, okay. So it's actually very, very good that you did the opening.
Oh, okay.
That'll work perfect.
Well, if it sounds decent. No.
It sounds perfect. It was perfect.
Hey, home theater nerds.
Now, yeah, there you go. Now, do you know the outro?
No.
What are you going to do?
I don't think I've ever heard it.
You don't go to that far. I don't listen that far. I listen to the first 5 minutes of every podcast. No, you don't know what I tell everybody to do?
I don't know.
Oh, go push
play.
Wait.
Hold on a second.
I just said it.
Oh. Press play.
Push.
Push.
Hit. Yeah.
Hit.
Todd from AV Nirvana and I joke because he wants it to be hit play, which is true. You do hit play. I have the I've just always said go push play, but I do say hit every day. Yeah, just hit play, and then press push whatever. As long as you're doing something with the play button, you're all right.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing if anybody listens and comments and corrects me on my Tolkien knowledge.
No.
I'd
Oh
like
yeah.
to see people. I'd like to see people comment, and then like so somebody's gonna yell at me for calling lumens nits.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they'll be all like they'll probably be typing away, and then you'll correct yourself, and they'll go, "Oh damn, he caught it." You're like, "Yeah,
God.
yeah." Hey, stuff happens. I used to worry about stuff like that, but I used to, oh no, I said something that doesn't make sense, or I was wrong on something. How could I do that? You're like, nah. It's like,
No, you don't worry about it.
no, not at all. That's how you get people to speak.
Hey,
They love correcting you.
To be honest, I'm happy if I'm happy if I'm correct 10% of the time.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And no, it's just, that's why I always try to stick to opinions. Can't be wrong.
Yeah.
What, you telling me I can't like it? So, all right, let's wrap this up. Jeff, thank you very much. Wow. This is a big, busy week, but we finally covered it.
We did. And I'm glad the marathon is over because the
marathon.
That was that's a lot of work. 3 films and we did it.
3 films, 3 weeks. You know what? One other thing I haven't mentioned, I got a sense of Christmas because this is when I usually watch these. The week between Christmas and New Year's when I was off earlier on, I'd be like, oh, and I'd sit down and watch like one a day. And then watching these, going back and watching them, I'm like, I feel like I got to do it again at Christmas. But I just felt like it was like Christmas time for some reason because that's when and they did come out in December. When they first came out, they released in December, so I still had that Christmas vibe. But yeah, they're just actually, I did have this question for you. Are these going to be like Lawrence of Arabia? Do you think? Are these like 40, 50 years from now? You think people are still going to be looking at these and going, wow, like we are today? Do you think?
I really do. Yeah, I do. Yeah. For sure.
I do too. I just think it's the storytelling and the technology and how they've been produced. But I just think, like I said, when you get to that part where Sam picks Frodo up and you're just like, it's all culminating and images are going back in your head of watching them crawl, but then you go back to the original, like into Fellowship and how green and lush and they came from the Shire and they like, and you're just contrasting that in your head, watching them. And then later on, they're even saying, like, do you remember the Shire? Do you remember that? And it's like, but I literally had just done that, just watching them crawl up this mountain.
It's very emotional. The last bunch of scenes. I mean, when
especially when you know you're at the end. I felt like Frodo, like, oh my God, we're almost there.
Oh. I mean, I felt after Minas Tirith, that film it can drag.
Yeah, well,
it's taxing. It's slow moving, but but when Aragorn is being crowned and the hobbits kneel down, go to kneel and he says, "You bow to no one."
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It put a lump in my throat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was. Oof. Yeah. Yeah. You're right.
And when Frodo wakes up in bed. And
when he first wakes up,
and he's okay, and then Merry and Pippin come in, and the other guys come in, and then finally Sam comes in. It's just there's a lot of emotion at the end of this film because you've been on a long journey with them.
Yeah, and that's what I was getting at when I'm like I'm thinking, but just watching it over 3 weeks time with everything else going, and it's like you are drained. You feel like you almost feel like Frodo and Sam, and you're like, you've been on this journey and you're right. Then that payoff and that long, the 3, the 30-minute wrap up of everything. But you're right. I was caught up in the other stuff, but that you bow to no one is just, that is an amazing scene right there.
Right.
But yeah. Whew. All right. Before we go on even more, Jeff,
let's cut.
Cut it. Thank you very much, everybody.
And we're back. Or did we ever leave?
Exactly. So the joke here is, if you actually just did listen to it here, because I don't think we're going to be able to fit all this into one show. So you're going to have to go someplace else and see Jeff and hear Jeff. So,
right.
But that's the part of the show. But if for some reason I can fit it all together, then we'll fit it all together. But other than that, that is it.
Yeah.
Great conversation with Jeff. Either you just heard it or you got to go hear it. So.
Or you're going to go listen to it. Right.
You're going to go listen to it. All right. That should do it for this week, right?
I think so.
Because that's a long
long show
with
yeah.
us. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Very, very busy week here. Thank you all for participating. Thank you, everybody that's helping support the show. And if have been on the show or you're a patron of the show and you'd like to join the green room, let me know. I'll get you access to the green room. All you got to do is sign up at AV Nirvana and give me your login name once you've signed up at AV Nirvana, and then I'll give that to Todd and he will grant you access. And then great conversations going on over there. Probably should have talked about this at the beginning of the show too. What are you thinking of the forum so far?
I'm enjoying it. I think there's some good conversations going on. Again, I'm not as active as some, but I've read almost everything.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't comment on everything. But there's a lot of good conversations going on there. I think it's great. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
I'm actually looking at it more than I thought I would. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I thought I would maybe visit once a day, but I find myself every couple of hours popping on just to see what's new on there.
Right.
You know? And
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it. So.
I'm having more fun than I expected. And I thought I'd have fun, but I mean, I'm not big into forums and stuff, but this is exactly what I've always wanted because it's great conversations, great threads going over there.
Well, and the nice thing is that, like, honestly, we could disappear from it and it's already growing a life of its own. You know what I mean? And which is what you want.
That's what I want. Yeah.
It's a forum. Yeah. You don't have to start every thread. And honestly, most of the threads have not been started by either one of us.
Yeah.
So,
I've started a few. And I love it. I'm loving it. One other thing for the people that are in there, John and I have said what happens in the green room stays in the green room. We won't repeat what we're talking about over there because that's part of the fun of going over there.
Well, right.
But if you guys want to,
why have it?
if you guys want to, you're more than welcome to share with other people, which people have, hey, this is what's going on over there. So thank you for that because it's a great way to promote it and get people to join up with the green room. So, but it's a great forum going on over there. And again, thanks to Todd for setting that up for us. So hopefully we're helping out with AV Nirvana as well because I've checked out a bunch of their stuff. I'm in their forums now more than I was before, and I already was.
Right.
But yeah, pretty cool. All right. That it for this week?
I think so.
All right. Let's get out of here. I got to get something to eat. So have a great week, everybody. We will be back next week. Who knows with what? Maybe it'll be a shorter show.
Maybe.
Doubt it.
I don't know. We keep saying that.
Keep saying that, but we keep putting them out.
Yeah.
So I'll be back on Tuesday with Reggie, the audiophile. I think he's going to school me on something. Pretty sure. The way he, I know, John. Finally, somebody will.
Finally.
Yeah. You're gonna get.
Somebody needs to take you down to Peg.
Exactly. My mom's name's Peg, so don't take me down to Peg. I feel like I'm getting grounded again.
Yeah.
Oh. All right. Have a great week, everybody. John, what do they got to do?
Go push play.
Is right. Hey, Fred.
This has been a Hey Fred production with theme music by Jeff Bernhardt and Throne Vault Productions.